The icy hush of a northern dawn clung to Winterfell like a second skin, its granite walls veiled in lilac mist that curled about the ramparts and seeped through every arrow slit and murder hole. Jon Snow stood alone upon the battlements above the eastern gate, boots planted in frost, the faintest plume of breath wreathing his lips. The rebuilt castle still smelled of pitch and fresh-cut pine, scents that should have sung of victory, yet they carried a hollow note that settled in Jon's bones as a kind of tremor. Great battles, as he had learned, left ghosts in their wake, and though the living feasted in the halls below, there came an hour just before sunrise when those ghosts stretched long shadows across the courtyard, reminding the victorious that nothing won in war was ever truly free. Ghost padded to his side, fur glimmering moon-white in the muted light. The direwolf's crimson eyes scanned the parapets, ears twitching with every distant rustle of the castle stirring from sleep. Jon's gloved hand found the curve of the wolf's neck, and for a breath he felt anchored, but only that. Dawn, less a moment than a promise, stirred beyond the wolf's wood. A faint blush kissed the horizon. Soon the bells would ring to call the garrison to morning training. Davos would want counsel on stores. Sansa would ask again if the catapults could be dismantled now that winter's worst storms had passed. Yet Jon lingered, as though if he listened hard enough, he might hear answers in the wind, answers whispered in another man's voice. Eddard Stark's voice. Lyanna's. Even Rhaegar's, though Jon had never heard it save in half-remembered dreams. It had been a moon's turn since Samwell Tarly's quiet confession beside the hearth. Parchment smuggled from the citadel, ink faded but stubborn, recounting an annulment in Dorne and a secret marriage at the height of Robert's rebellion. A moon's turn since Bran. More than Bran now, Bran and the three-eyed raven wedded in spectral union. Spoke of a cradle and a tower bathed in the bruised light of dawn. Of a promise kept and a name unspoken. Aegon Targaryen, Bran had said. And though the name made Jon flinch, the wound it opened was older than any blade. Ned Stark had sheltered him his whole life from the raging world. Now the storm had found him all the same. Thunder of hooves shattered the stillness below. Jon glanced down to see a single rider gallop through the Hunter's Gate, the portcullis clanging shut behind. Snow-flecked Barding bore a purple sunrise upon pale gray, the sigil of House Dane. The rider swung free, and for an instant Jon's breath caught. Not because of the rider, a lean, plainly armored courier, but for the sword she bore across her back, swaddled in lamb's wool yet unmistakable for the impossible length of a dawn-pale blade. It could not be. No, Dawn resided at Starfall, guarded by Lady Ellaria Dane since her brother Edric's flight across the narrow sea. A copy, he told himself. A trick of the light. He was descending the stairs before he knew it, ghosting behind. By the time he reached the yard, the rider, face wind-burned, eyes the color of storm clouds, was already kneeling before Sansa and Davos, who had emerged cloaked against the cold. Jon strode across pitted stones, still scarred from giant boots and siege rams. The sword's wrappings shimmered as though they drank the weak sun. "My lord," the courier said, words tipped with the hammered accent of the Red Mountains. "I bear letters from Lady Ellaria of Starfall, addressed to thee." She paused, uncertain. "To the Lord Commander Jon Snow." Jon's heart hammered. The title tasted strange, for he wore no black cloak now, and his oaths lay broken in the snow beyond Castle Black. Yet news from Dorne seldom came north, and never with a blade that gleamed like first light. He accepted the wax-sealed scroll, noting the seal. A 70-pointed falling star stamped in white wax. He broke it with a thumb, unfolded the parchment, and read, "Lord Snow, in the quiet hours of dawn, the sword calls for a hand worthy to wield it. Dreams haunt my halls, and speak of ice and fire entwined at the mouth of the world. Once my brother Arthur carried that burden, and the sword sang in his grasp. Now another dawn approaches. Come to Starfall if you would answer. The blade will judge. Ellaria Dane, Lady of Starfall." Beneath the elegant script, a postscript in a firmer hand. "The maesters dream of winter that will not end, and dragons that wake beneath the sand. The comet has returned unseen, hidden in cloud. Hurry." Jon read it twice, fingers tingling as though the paper burned. He heard Bran's voice again, flat and distant. Night gathers in the south as well as the north. War for the dawn is upon us, and all must choose their sword. Perhaps Illyria's summons was a whisper of that war. Sansa's gloved hand closed on his wrist. What is it? He met her eyes, gray as their father's and clearer than the sky. In them, he saw worry, but also iron. She bids me come to Starfall. She speaks of dawn. Davos sucked air through his teeth. That's nigh 3,000 leagues, my lord, and half of Westeros between. The southern passes are impassable until the spring thaw. He glanced at the bundled sword. What did she send then? The courier, name still unspoken, untied the wrappings with reverent care. Pale blade slid free of wool, revealing metal so white it almost vanished against the snow. No ripples, no fullers, no forging marks marred its surface, and yet light pooled along its edge as though the sun hid within. Dawn, no lesser blade, no copy. Stark soldiers gasped. Even the smiths paused at their forges, mouths open. It came north in haste, the courier said, bowing her head. Lady Illyria bade me keep it sheathed until you could behold it. She said the sword would know its master. Xiao. Jon reached. The courier did not flinch as he closed a bare hand around the hilt. Bone white, cool as marble, carved with the faint pattern of a 7-rayed sunburst. No jewels. Dawn needed no adornment. When he lifted it, the blade felt impossibly light, balanced as a dream. A shiver coursed up his arm, but it was not cold he felt. Rather, a hum like chords struck upon a silent harp, notes sounding in marrow and blood. In his mind rose an image of a tower of pale stone, a bed of blood-soaked rushes, and a promise cried out beneath the plaintive whistle of wind. Another memory not his own. Sir Arthur Dayne, Sword of the Morning, kneeling at Rhaegar's feet, presenting the same blade. I could have your life with this, the Shadow Prince had once said, and Arthur had answered, then you shall have it, and like as not my own. Jon's fingers tightened. Does it speak to you? Bran had asked a moon ago, of the wolf dreams. Do you listen? Standing there, sword aloft, Jon knew. Dawn spoke in silence, and he was listening. Ghost raised his muzzle and let out a low, almost mournful keen. He lowered the blade. Around him the courtyard held its breath. Dawn's edge caught the newborn sun and sent a lance of brilliance through the morning gloom. Jon turned to the courier. Your name? Elia, she said. Elia Sand, a bastard of Dorne, as he had once been a bastard of Winterfell. Rise, Elia Sand, he told her, and tell Lady Illyria I will answer. Word traveled swift as gossip through the castle. The lord in the north was bound south, chasing a pale sword and a darker destiny. By noon, Jon convened council in the great hall, though the hearths roared and the air smelled of boiling oats rather than roasted meats. War left the larders thin. Winter left them thinner. Yet men and women filed in. House Manderly's tall knights, Karstark archers, Glover spearmen. Lady Lyanna Mormont sat small but fierce beside Sansa, whose posture echoed Catelyn's in quieter days. Davos stood near the dais, parchment in one hand, quill in the other. Jon wanted to tell them he would not leave for long, but he could offer no guarantee when the world itself offered none. He explained Illyria's summons in spare words, sparing none to wonder aloud whether Dawn would heed or reject him. He spoke of the threat still festering beyond the wall, though by now the wall lay shattered at Eastwatch, and survivors whispered of horn blasts echoing through ruined towers. He spoke of how the Vale Knights had pledged support but needed time to muster, of how fire and blood had awakened dragons across the sea, yet no flames burned bright enough to melt the snows choking the King's Road. When he paused, silence settled. They were all weary of oaths and kings. Yet it was Lady Lyanna who broke it. So you'll seek another sword, she said, voice high but unyielding. We're to trust that blade will slay what steel and fire could not. Jon met her gaze. Not the blade alone, he said, forcing calm. But if Dawn chooses me, I will be more than one man with a sword. I will be proof proof that the ancient houses still answer the call of the dawn, that the living yet stand together against the dark. Hey? The girl lord snorted softly but did not press. Wyman manderly coughed into his beard, then rumbled, "My ships may break ice in White Harbor sooner than the passes open. If you sail, take a fleet. Knights, soldiers, food enough to see you south." Davos dipped his quill. "A small force, perhaps. If we march an army, the realm might cry rebellion, and we'd drain Winterfell of defenders." Jon inclined his head. "I'll need guides, scouts, men who can travel light. Then one bear. I'll go." The voice came from the door. Tormund Giantsbane strode in, red beard bristling. Longaxe hung casually over one shoulder. "Your southern ladies may want your pretty head for their mantelpiece, Crow. But a man who's danced with shadows needs a friend with a sharp axe." Jon almost smiled. "I'm not a crow anymore." Tormund grinned, all teeth. "Hey, and I'm no longer giant." He thumped his chest. "We march south and south and south until the snows turn to sand. Then we drink their wine and steal their women. Well, maybe not. Giants are rare down there, might frighten the lasses." "Let him come." The hall rumbled with a tentative laugh. Tension eased. Sansa placed her hand atop Jon's on the table. "I will hold Winterfell," she said, voice steady. "Rickon will have his lessons. The grain will be sown come thaw, and the northern lords will remember their oaths." He nodded. Leaving her tore a fresh wound, yet he trusted her strength. She wore it like a mantle these days. That afternoon, ravens flew in every direction, and Jon walked the God's Wood paths one last time. He knelt before the heart tree, its red leaves trembling, and whispered the old words. No answers came, only the rustle of branches and the scent of sap. He dipped 2 fingers in the frozen pool, touched them to the carved face. "Keep watch," he murmured. He was not sure if he spoke to the gods or Ned. When he returned to the Great Keep, Bran waited in the solar, thin as a reed, eyes unusually bright. Jon shut the door and felt as though the air itself thickened. The boy, no, the seer, regarded him like a piece on a sevasboard. "You dream of a sword," Bran said. Jon drew breath. "And you dream of everything." "Not everything." Bran's mouth twitched, sorrow behind it. "But enough to know Dawn will need you. And you it. The last sword of the morning fell at the foot of a tower I saw as clearly as standing here. He died true to his vows, but vows cannot stop time. Another must rise." Bran's eyes glazed, as if he looked through the walls to far-off hills. "You will see ghosts on that road, Jon. Not only your own." Jon swallowed. "Can you see if I return?" "Those, long, brittle." "No," Bran said at last, so softly Jon scarcely heard. "That path is mist to me. Yet, I think your place is with the sword, wherever it leads you after." And Jon clutched Dawn's hilt. He had not let the blade out of sight all day, and nodded. He knelt, as he had when Bran woke from his shattered fall. He meant to ask forgiveness for leaving again, but Bran laid a thin hand on his brow. "Remember who you are. Remember both names." Bran's voice blended with wind through cracks in the shutters. That night Jon slept in his old bedchamber, though he barely slept at all. Ghost curled at the foot of the bed while Dawn rested atop the linens, its pale length limning the dark with faint shimmer. Dreams knitted themselves around him. A tower of pale stone beneath a bleeding star. A man in gleaming armor kneeling before a crib. Lyanna's scent of blue winter roses crushed beneath sheets. Then the scene shifted. Sand dunes rippling like a sea. A castle perched upon cliffs over a violet river. And a woman with violet eyes, not unlike his own mother? Queen? Whispering words he could not hear. Dawn lay across his lap in the dream, radiating warmth. When he woke near dawn, his cheeks were wet. He rose, washed, laced his leathers. Frost runned the window panes, though the fire still smoldered. He buckled Dawn's scabbard across his back, the strap unfamiliar over one shoulder. Longclaw he left on the wall, resting in a new mount of dark wood. Its pommel wolf stared accusingly, yet he could not bear two swords. Ghost whuffed low, understanding perhaps. In the courtyard the journey party gathered, Tormund, Sir Davos, stubborn despite protests about his age, Lyanna Mormont's bannerman Hallis with 15 spears, two of Manderley's swiftest riders, and Elias Sand, who had replaced her courier's mail with supple leather and carried a short bow and dirk. She claimed to know secret Dornish passes through the Boneway untouched by winter storms. Jon counted 20 souls all told, lean, lightly equipped, horses freshly shod. Enough to fight off raiders, not enough to draw armies upon them. Sansa embraced him beneath the broken tower. "Right," she said, faint tremor in her breath. "Every castle we pass. And if the letters stop, then look to the skies." He placed the final words between them, like a shield. Sansa released him, eyes bright but shining. Arya was not there. She had slipped away again, on some errand to the Riverlands, if rumors were true. Yet he felt her presence at his back, a shadow dancing with unseen blades. The portcullis groaned open. Jon swung into the saddle of a grey gelding named Mist. Ghost trotted ahead as vanguard. The direwolf took easily to roads, tracks, even rooftops when needed. At Jon's nod the party spurred into motion, hooves clattering down the King's Road. Snowflakes drifted lazily. As the towers of Winterfell dwindled behind, Jon glanced once over his shoulder. The Godswood's ancient weirwood stood stark against the sky, and for an instant he could have sworn its red leaves flickered like embers, as if the tree watched and wished him well. 3 weeks into the journey, they crossed the neck by way of the causeway marches, where crumbling stones once laid by the children of the forest rose from the mire like broken teeth. The air stank of peat and stagnant water. Will-o'-wisps flickered above pools so black they swallowed torchlight. Reed sentries from Greywater Watch materialized soundlessly amid cattails, escorting them along narrow dikes. Howland Reed himself emerged, a slight man in moss-green leather, bearing a castle-forged spear and eyes soft as marsh water. He greeted Jon with quiet warmth. "We knew you'd come," Reed said beneath a grove of twisted alders. "The Crannogmen keep to themselves, but the wind carries news even here." He eyed the pale hilt peeking over Jon's shoulder. Arthur's sword. Strange to see it above the neck. Then him. Jon almost asked if Reed had faced Arthur that day at the Tower of Joy. But the question tasted intrusive. Instead he accepted Reed's offer of sheltered boggislands to rest, dry rush mats, birkbark cups of frogs, broth laced with herbs that eased their coughs. Reed's daughter, Mira, polished armor. His son, Jojen, watched from afar, too frail to walk. They spoke of green dreams, of a storm on the horizon that would drown kings. Jon listened, wondering whether all the children of men sensed this dread, or only those touched by magic. When they parted, Reed pressed a bundle of arrow reeds into Elia's hands, and to Jon he gave a leather pouch of fine-ground black lakebed soil. "Scatter this upon the sword when the moon is high at the shrouded step," he said. "It will show the blade's true color." Jon accepted with a puzzled frown, but tucked it carefully away. Beyond Moat Cailin they found the King's Road choked with drifts and broken carts. Refugees huddled round dying fires. They shared what bread they could. Davos tallied every crumb, yet knew the gesture meant more than the food itself. Tormund told wildling tales to the children, of giants and mammoths, of the ice spiders of old, and the little ones laughed, if nervously. Elia sang a lullaby in the Dornish tongue. Dawn rested across Jon's knees, as he knelt by each fire, its pale surface reflecting jaundiced sparks. South of White Harbor they turned inland, avoiding war-scarred villages where Sel's-words still prowled for loot. The world felt brittle, as if forged from glass. One wrong step and fissures would split the realm wide open. Yet winter's grip eased slowly. By the time the weeping water glittered on their right hand, snows had thinned to crusted patches. Ravens wheeled overhead. The sun flirted with warmth. One night they camped on a barrow-crowned hill, the moon a pale coin above. Jon woke before dawn to find the barrow stones glowing faintly. He followed the light and discovered a single grave marker carved with a worn sword and no name, as though the dead man's title was enough. Dawn pulsed softly. He knelt, scattering Reed's black soil upon the blade as instructed. For an instant the sword darkened, as night swallowing day, then shivered, shedding granules of soil that evaporated like dew. When they vanished, dawn blazed brighter than ever, edges tinged with faint violet. Jon stared until his eyes watered. Beside him the soil had vanished without a trace. He whispered a silent thanks to the Crennog Lord. And Ray sheathed. Davos approached, cloak drawn tight. Couldn't sleep either. Jon shrugged. Dreams. The old smuggler eyed the sword. She liked it. Who? Your mother. Davos spoke carefully. Lady Lyanna. I watched her ride sometimes. Stealthy as a shadow. Hells of a rider. Sir Arthur trained with her more than once at tourney camps. She admired Dawn. Swore she'd marry whomever could best Sir Arthur. He chuckled sadly. Fewer men tried after that. Jon knew Davos had fought for Stannis Baratheon in Robert's rebellion. Had seen glimpses of the past few living men recalled. He wondered how many secrets hid in Davos' scarred fingers. Never be ashamed of seeking your parents in history, Davos said softly. The dead carry truth, the living forget to tell. Spring's first bloom found them at the Trident, where river mists curled among reeds, and broken shields still jutted from muddy banks. Relics of Robert's fury long ago. They crossed at Seven Streams Ferry, paid with minted silver stamped with a wolf's head. The rivermen watched the blade on Jon's back with wary awe. Rumors traveled ahead of them. The White Wolf wielded a sunrise sword and marched for the south where dragons slept. Some said he was Rhaegar reborn, come to finish what the prince had begun. Others swore he was a stark ghost come to haunt the descendants of Aerys for the burning of Brandon and Rickard. Jon ignored them, though he felt the weight of every mutter. At Maidenpool, they found Lord Mooton's keep a husk. Its towers scorched by 3 passes of dragon flame weeks prior. So locals claimed. Jon climbed a crumbling stair to behold blackened timbers and stone melted like candle wax. Among the debris, a single silver scale, large as his palm, gleamed amid ash. He pocketed it on impulse. Even in ruin the land whispered of dragons. Beyond Crack-a-Clay Hills, they skirted the haunted seat of Harrenhal. Tormund spit each time the towers came into view. Bad place, he muttered. Stone remembers fire. On the night they camped near the Blue Fork, Ilya approached where Jon cleaned Dawn with a cloth of oiled linen. She knelt gingerly, moonlight gilding the strands of dark hair that escaped her scarf. My lady bade me speak only when we crossed the Mummers' Ford, she said, voice low. We're near enough. There will be those who seek to deny you the sword. Jon paused. Who? A lord in Dorne, Gerald Dane. Darkstar, they name him. He claims the sword should be his, by blood, if not by right. He coveted it at once, when it lay in a vault at Starfall. When Lady Ilaria sent it north, she risked his wrath. Now one day. Jon recalled tales. Darkstar, half-brother to Edric Dane, ruthless as a starving cat, deadly with a blade. If he seeks it, he'll find me, Jon said, though unease fluttered beneath his calm. Why warn me? Because my lady believes you worthy, and because I would see dawn wielded by a man who saves children from snow, shares bread with beggars, and listens to the wind before the sword. Ilya stood. Remember that when steel rings. He watched her return to her blankets, thinking, she sees honor in me I seldom see in myself. They crossed the Blackwater by ferry south of the deserted city of King's Landing. Smoke still coiled from the distant ruins of the Red Keep. Whatever wildfire Robert's son had hidden had finally erupted weeks before their arrival, gutting the Upper Bailey. Small folk wandered the streets like wraiths. Jon led his companions down the long-deserted Dragon Gate to the Street of Steel. Armorers hammered breastplates shaped like suns and lions. Whispers said Aegon, son of Aelia Martell, ruled now. Come back from exile with Golden Company swords. Jon neither confirmed nor denied. His path bent away from crowns. Yet at the ruined sept of Baelor, a woman in motley black and red stepped before them. Her hair was pale, her eyes green, her features handsome. Arya, She leaned on the hilt of needle as though she had waited there an age. "Took you long enough," she said beneath crumbling gargoyles. Ghost bounded forward with a yelp of joy. Tormund hooted. Jon embraced her, his heart lifting. "How did you know?" he asked. She tapped her temple. "We Starks have our ways." Later, she told him of whispers gleaned from river inns, of a wolf lord bound for Starfall with a star-forged blade. She had trailed them like a shadow. Now she rode at his side, though she refused to be coddled, insisting she could pass unseen where armies could not. Their band swelled by 2 more. Gendry Waters, master smith of the Street of Steel, muscled arms scarred by forge burns, and Davos green-eyed ward Devan Seaworth, grown tall, eager for adventure. Jon feared their numbers might hinder, but the new blood lifted spirits and offered skills no captain refused. They took the Gold Road, then veered onto lesser tracks to avoid Lannister patrols, still contested the hills. Rain hammered them for days, turning roads to mire. Gendry repaired horseshoes at night, forging nails with makeshift bellows. Arya scouted ahead, bringing back news of a sellsword company, flying purple banners with crossed scythes. Mercenaries sworn to no cause but coin. Jon altered their course accordingly. In the Reach, orchards drooped with frost-killed blossoms. The fertile land awaited spring as though holding its breath. At a half-ruined sept in Kai Lands, they sheltered from a hailstorm. There, Jon dreamt of a white tree and a sea of flowers, and beneath it knelt Arthur Dayne, not dead but weary, handing dawn to a boy wrapped in wolf pelts. When Jon took the sword, the tree burst into flame. Not burning, but shining bright as sunrise. He woke to find his own face wet again, though no tear could explain the taste of ash on his tongue. Dawn remained warm beside him. By the time they sighted the red limestone slopes of the Red Mountains of Dorne, they had ridden near 2 moons. Jon's beard had thickened, flecked with early gray that Sansa swore made him look like Ned. The air grew drier, snow giving way to dusty wind. Their winter cloaks they stowed. Leather and linen sufficed. Ilya guided them along goat paths, where spring fed trickling streams. Purple cacti flowered. Lizards basked on red stone. They halted at the shrouded step, a narrow cleft carved by wind, when moonlight silvered the cliffs. Reed's counsel returned to him. He drew Dawn and sprinkled a pinch of the remaining lake-bed soil upon the flat. The blade tipped luminous violet again, but now lines of milky white swirled like clouds within, as though the sword itself contained sunrise and dusk in equal measure. Tormund muttered a curse. Arya whispered a Florenti prayer. Jon felt the hum deeper this time, pulsing with his heartbeat until he wondered whether the sword's rhythm was his own. When they descended into the deep valley beyond, short thorn trees clung to juniper groves, and the river Torrentine roared below. Far along the horizon, perched upon a cliff like a pale-winged falcon, stood Starfall, towers white as sun-bleached bone, roofs the purple of twilight, and banners of gold and lavender flickering in the wind. The sight caught the breath in Jon's lungs. He had seen Winterfell on a crisp summer dawn, castle black beneath a full moon, Dragonstone lit by fires at sea, but never a fortress seemed to float above the earth quite like this. They made camp at the valley's edge. Ilya left to announce their arrival. Twilight painted the castle walls a soft rose. Jon stood beside the quiet torrent, dawn unsheathed across his knees. He traced the carved hilt, feeling the ridges of the 7-rayed star. Tomorrow, the blade would meet the house that forged it from a fallen star in the Age of Heroes. Tomorrow, it would judge him or betray him. Perhaps Lady Alleria would smile and call him the rightful sword of the morning. Perhaps she would demand the sword's return and send him north with empty hands. Either way, by tomorrow night, Jon Snow Aegon Targaryen would belong to legend or to obscurity, yet likely no longer to himself. He raised his eyes to the sky. A single star, bright and white, winked into existence above the fortress. It did not fall. It remained, steady, patient. Jon bowed his head. Ghost settled beside him, pressing warm fur against his knee. In the wolf's presence, Jon found a center he had nearly lost amid names and prophecies. The wind stirred his hair, carrying faint notes of desert spice. He breathed deeply, held it, and released. Night covered the valley like a raven's wing. Fires dotted the camp behind, Davos recounting smuggler tales, Arya honing needle, Tormund gnawing goat ribs. And Jon sat on the riverbank, sword across his lap, listening to water and wind and the slow, steady cadence of his heart. The promise of dawn lay before him. Not a weapon of war, but the first light of something unknown. In that moment Jon understood. To become the sword of the morning was not to wield power, but to bear witness. To hold the past in one hand and the future in the other. To stand between darkness and the first fragile gleam of day. Tomorrow he would see whether the blade agreed. And so he waited, beneath a sky jeweled with silent stars. For the light no night could truly conquer. Morning seeped into the valley as if poured from a cracked goblet. The light thin and copper-hued, glancing off shale ridges and sandstone spires. Jon Snow blinked awake before the campfires surrendered their last embers. The long saddle's leather had printed creases into his cheek, and the whisper of the Torrentine was a low chant in his ears. He turned first to Ghost, who already sat sentinel, angular muzzle aimed at Starfall's pale ramparts. The dire wolf's breath puffed steady clouds. Each exhalation erased a thread of fog, revealing that the path up the cliffs had been cleared overnight. Elia Sands doing, no doubt. At least a score of Dornish boundary riders lounged along the switchback track, spears upright but helms in their laps. An escort, not a cordon. Jon flexed stiff fingers and felt Dawn's weight still across his thighs. The same reassuring hum nestled in the metal. The blade had not stirred him with dreams this time. Rather it lay quiet, as though waiting to see whether he would dare the climb. Davos Seaworth joined him, cloak cinched tight, a waterskin steaming gently in hand. "Boiled small-close tea," he announced, mouth quirking when Jon sniffed suspicion. Never underestimate the healing properties of river water and optimism. "You're needed." He squatted, offering the skin. Illyria's riders said dawn feast will be served on the lower terraces, and the gathering proper at midday. Ceremony at sunset. A shrug. Dornish rituals. The lady won't release details. They're meant to test worth, not prepare guests. Jon drank. The liquid earthy, faintly sweet. What sort of tests? Stories differ. Davos glanced toward the fortress, its tallest tower. A round keep of white stone, glowing in the young sun. Some say they ask for feats of arms, others for judgments of mercy, still others for truth spoken beneath a sky of falling stars. Might be they only watch how you treat the castle's cats. His grin faded. None mention impostors walking away with the sword. Jon surveyed his companion stirring around the dying fire. Tormund kicking ash off his boots. Arya practicing balances atop a fallen log, needle in one hand, Catspaw's Valyrian dagger in the other. Gendry coaxing sparks from flint for a forge pit he intended to rig from a hollow stone shelf. Hallis Mormont's spearmen shuffled gear in disciplined silence. Devon Seaworth knelt beside Elia, testing bowstrings that had grown slack in river mist. Ragged though they looked, a tighter band of hearts he could scarcely imagine. Yet his pulse beat arrhythmic with doubt. They were North, river, reach, even free folk. But no true Dornish save Elia. And Dawn belonged to Dorne. He rose. "Best not keep the lady waiting." Tormund spat and shouldered his axe. "Let's hope their wine is stronger than their tests, Crow." "I'm not." "Snow then." "Sword, Wolf, King. Whichever cloak you put on today." The wildling winked. "I'm still calling you Crow in the tin bath if I have to scrub your back." Arya snorted. "He means to drown you in Dornish wine first. Less scrubbing." She sheathed needle, fell into step. They broke camp quickly. The Dornish escort formed a wedge around them. Lean, sun-browned riders mounted on sure-footed sand steeds. Their captain, a spare woman with hair the color of roasted chestnut, saluted Jon with spear reversed. "Lady Ilaria welcomes you to the Torrentine's cradle," she said, accent lilting. "I am Sir Mela Santagar, sworn blade to Starfall. We are to guide you over the dragon's spine. The climb is steep. Dismount if your beasts falter." The dragon's spine lived up to its name, a rib of stone that zigged and zagged in dizzy coils. Below, the river boiled through canyons. Above, vultures circled like lazy thoughts. Ghosts trotted along the median ridge, paws light as breath. Jon felt each switchback in his calves. Summer sweat replacing northern chill despite the early hour. Halfway up, a sandstone arch revealed itself, natural yet suspiciously symmetrical, bearing ancient glyphs smoothed by time. Arya traced one with a gloved finger. "Looks like the first manuscript the Maester showed me at Winterfell," she murmured. "See here, a sunburst. And a wolf?" She glanced at Jon. The marking indeed resembled a stylized wolf's head, angular lines fused with a seven-pointed star. Coincidence or omen left by Mason dreamers long dead? Sermela led them through without commentary, but Jon noted how her eyes darted to the glyph before sliding away fast, as though acknowledging a secret best ignored. The track widened into a terrace blasted flat, allowing them to remount for the final ascent. Groves of ghost myrtle shaded cool pockets where purple orchids grew wild. Beyond an outcrop, the view exploded open. Ocean, sapphire and relentless, hammered the Dornish coast far below, and the Torrentine spilled in silver ribbons from the cliff's base. Starfall itself, perched on a promontory draped with gardens that clung impossibly to stone. Palms rustling against marble balustrades. Gates of interlocking alabaster petals parted at Sermela's signal. Inside, the castle felt more temple than keep. No smoky hearths, no drafty corridors. Everything shone with reflected sea light, arcades of milky quartz, window tracery thin as spider silk, floors laid in mosaics of sunrise colors, pinks, corals, pale yellows, depicting falling stars, winged women, seven-pointed crowns. Servants wore linens of lavender or cream, barrack-armed, each greeting delivered with palms pressed over hearts. A steward shepherded them to a colonnaded court, where citrus trees bent under fruit the size of skulls. Low tables groaned with flatbread flecked by sesame, bowls of olives black as moonless ponds, platters of blistered lizard skewers, fried quail eggs dusted in saffron. Tormund seized a jug of sunrise gold wine and drank. Arya took to the skewers, unashamed grease on her chin. Ghost devoured a heap of thick-stuffed dove breasts provided especially for him. Jon, less hungry, focused on the distant hum of the blade on his back. Every polished surface mirrored Dawn's length when he moved. Yet none of the Dornish gawped. They accepted the sword's presence as one might accept the sun overhead. Constant, blinding, inevitable. Near the end of the meal, silence rippled through the court. Lady Alleria Dane entered, with neither flourish nor guards, as though she had merely wandered from a stroll. She wore a gown of simple white samite, girded by a narrow belt of silver rings. Her dark hair fell straight to waist, and in it nested a single star-shaped opal clip. Her eyes, violet so deep they tilted to indigo, held both welcome and fatigue. She smiled first at Elia, cupping the younger woman's cheek, then pivoted toward Jon. "You carry my brother's legacy across your shoulders," she said, her voice pitched like rippling silk. "Will you set it down before me?" Jon stood. "Not set down, my lady. Only guided home." He unbuckled the scabbard carefully, handling the sword as one handles a sleeping child, and offered it flat across two palms. An intake of breath skimmed the courtyard. Even Ghost stilled. Alleria did not reach for the blade. Instead, she extended a single finger to touch the starburst carved near the guard. The blade shimmered, ripples of mother hoof pearl expanding outward. "It has chosen you," she said simply, and the hush deepened. Plates stopped clinking, pigeons ceased cooing. She stepped back. "Yet choice demands answer. You will undergo 3 rites, of memory, mercy, and mourning. Pass them, or place Dawn upon its plinth once more. Then tomb." Jon inclined his head. "As you command." "Not command, Lord Snow. Invite. The sword commands." She surveyed his entourage. "The rites permit champions, but no more than 2 may join the supplicant. Their hearts, like his, must face judgment." Arya spoke before anyone. I stand for him. Tormund barked a laugh. Then the blade will know joy. He kicked a chair behind. I stand also. Jon looked to Davos, who nodded encouragement but did not volunteer. Perhaps his age weighed heavier than pride. Elia made a subtle gesture, hands palm up, relinquishing the chance. Gendry looked almost relieved. Devon, eager but restrained, mimicked his father with a silent salute. Lady Ilaria appeared satisfied. Very well. Rites commence at the hour of grey, the moment before sunset. Until then, the castle is yours. Rest. Pray, if it suits you. The dawn chamber remains sealed until the hour. She bowed. A brief flow of fabric, and left via an arcade of scalloped arches, barefoot upon the mosaic. Everyone exhaled at once. Davos rubbed his skull. Memory, mercy, mourning. Sounds like a Septus sermon. He looked at Jon. Whatever ghosts they bring forth, best know your own faith. Arya wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. It's riddles. I hate riddles. Better if they just let us duel Darkstar and be done. Darkstar might still come, Elia warned. He lurks north of Sandstone, so spies say. If he heard of the sword's departure, he rides for home. Memder Benawan. Tormund belched. More wine then. Strength for rights and rivals. Jon watched servants clear platters, mind sloshing with doubt. Memory. He had memories enough to drown a kingdom. Of Longclaw's first draw, of Ollie's betrayal, of Ygritte dying in his arms, of Robb's headless corpse, of the Tower of Joy vision Bran had shown him. Mercy. He had given it, sometimes too freely, sometimes late. Mourning. He had chased it all his life, yet rarely caught its warmth. How did one prove such abstract virtues? And to a sword? He found the answer not in council, but in the quiet hours that followed. Guided by a mute page, he bathed in a cloistered pool, where fallen star mosaics glittered beneath hip-deep water. The pool's edges were carved with serpents and lilies. Steam carried scents of juniper and myrrh. Jon submerged, feeling road grit float away. Beneath the surface, silence thickened until heartbeats thundered like distant drums. Eyes closed, he pictured the glyph on the arch, the wolf entwined with the star. Not ice subduing fire, nor fire melting ice, but two forces folding together, forging a blade sharper for its contradictions. When he rose dripping, another page presented fresh linens, and a new tunic dyed pale lilac. Jon recognized the seamwork as Dornish, breathable silk, yet the cut mirrored stark austerity. No embroidery, no frills, only functional clean lines. Dawn's scabbard, rebound in polished white leather, lay atop. He dressed slowly, every knot deliberate. Outside the bath, Arya waited in a corridor lined with night-blooming jasmine, wearing a tunic similar to his but black as ravens. Needles slanted across her back like a sliver of frost. You were brooding again, she observed. Thinking, you dress like father on feast days. Her smile was soft. He would have liked you in lilac. I doubt it. He said real lords wear colors to remind them life isn't all iron and mud. She punched his shoulder lightly. Come on. The rites won't kill us, probably. Them? Tormund intercepted them near a spiral stair, hair still damp, beard braided with orange blossoms filched from some unwatched urn. For luck, he claimed, thrusting a blossom behind Jon's ear. When Jon protested, Tormund shrugged. Wildling custom. Carry a flower into battle, let the gods smell life while they gamble on death. This isn't battle, Jon said. It is, Tormund countered. Every choice is battle. Some you fight with steel, some with soul. They reached the terrace of purple sand, so named for crushed amethyst crystals mixed into its flagstones. The sun hovered inches above the western horizon, bruising clouds violet and rose. Beneath a colonnade loomed twin doors of translucent moonstone carved with a single motif. A downward streak, ending in a seven-rayed flare. The falling star. Two silent sisters, in dusky gray robes, guarded the threshold. At Lady Ilaria's nod, visible through a sidelong arch. They pushed the doors wide and slipped aside. Beyond yawned a domed hall bathed in slanting amber light. Its walls were wide arcs of unbroken stone, smooth as river glass. No torches burned. Illumination came from lattice openings high above, where sunset's dying beams filtered through prisms set into the masonry, scattering polychrome shards onto the floor. At the hall's center rose a plinth of white granite, waist-high, empty save for a matrix of star-shaped grooves. Against the far curvature stood 7 alcoves, each veiled by gauzy curtains tinted different hues: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, the colors of dawn's first light. Lady Ilaria waited beside the plinth, barefoot still, bearing a crystal decanter. "Step forward, Jon Snow," she said, using his stark name pointedly. He did. Arya on his left, Tormund on his right. The doors whispered closed. The hush that followed felt cathedral vast. The rite of memory. Ilaria placed the decanter upon the plinth. Inside swirled fine silver grains, shimmering as though alive. This dust was ground from the meteor that forged dawn, mixed with sand collected each morning for 1,000 years from the Torrentane's mouth. Pour it upon the blade to reveal your truest memory. Only those who face their past may hold the dawn. Jon drew dawn. Even in low light, the metal glowed pearl bright. He unstoppered the decanter, tilt hesitant. Silver grains cascaded like hourglass sand across the flat of the sword. For a heartbeat, nothing changed. Then the grains hissed, vaporized into mist, and the hall darkened. Images flared across the blade's surface. A broken practice dummy in Winterfell's yard. Maester Luwin binding a bleeding palm. Robb laughing beneath a snow-laden pine. Ygritte's smile sliced by arrow wound. Ollie's dagger, flashing white. A tower bathed in orange dawn. Whoa. The images flickered raw, visceral. Jon's grip tightened until bone ached. Finally, the sword settled on one tableau. Jon standing on the wall staring south, face half in shadow, half in sun. The memory of that moment returned whole. The day before he betrayed the watch for love of the realm. Fear, conviction, loneliness, all welded inside him. He felt it as a spear through breastbone. A question pulsed in the vision. Would you choose differently? Jon inhaled. No, he whispered. Because the living needed me free. The mist vanished. Dawn rang like a crystal bowl struck by wind. A chime vibrated the hall. Ilaria nodded. Memory faced. She gestured to Arya. A violet curtained alcove dissolved. Out strode a figure Jon recognized with a jolt. Sansa Tyrell. But not his sister. An apparition wrought of memory. This Sansa wore silks of House Lannister, hair coiffed, lips tilted in sly half-a smile. Jon remembered rumors of her marriage to Tyrion, her captivity, things she endured alone. The specter reached for Arya, who froze. Jon stepped, but Ilaria's raised palm halted him. The right was hers. Sansa's likeness drew a blade, ice blue steel. She lunged. Arya parried. Their swords, a flurry of light. Yet the duel lacked bloodlust. Instead, each stroke forced Arya to concede ground, retreating into swallowed sobs. I left you, Arya gasped, backing closer to Jon. Left you to them? The Phantom smiled, lip curling in silent accusation. Arya's foot found the mosaic's sunburst center. She stopped. Needle drooped. She sheathed it, opened her palms. I'm sorry, she said, voice breaking. I was a girl lost in wolves and whispers. I can't undo the hurt. But I'm here, Sansa. I came home. Tears cut clean tracks down Grunda's dark cheeks. The Phantom's blade dissolved. She stepped forward, kissed Arya's brow and vanished in spark motes. Dawn chimed second time. Ilaria inclined her head. Memory faced. Now, Tormund. The indigo veil shred to reveal a towering Shegiant, hair of snow, eyes of glacial blue. Magnar, Tormund's lost love slain by then raiders years ago, if campfire tales held truth. She held a spear of glistening ice, leveled at Tormund's heart. The wildling's bravado crumbled. He fell to knees. "Forgive me, woman of giants," he murmured. "I roared battle while you birthed my sons. I drank sour goat milk while you bled. Had I stayed, you'd have lived." Tears like melted frost rolled into his beard blossoms. The giantess lowered her spear, touched his cheek with frost-rimmed fingers and dispersed. The sword chimed thrice. The hall brightened the slightest shade. Ilaria lifted the decanter, now empty. The rite of memory passes. Next, mercy. Swords conquer. Mercy redeems. Curtains reformed, now gray as storm clouds. Pedestals rose from the floor before each champion. On each pedestal appeared an object. Before Jon, a steel mask wrought like a snarling rat. Before Arya, a coin of Bravos. Before Tormund, a knot of leather thongs. Ilaria explained, each object symbolized a life once taken. Releasing the object meant forgiving oneself and the slain. Keeping it meant accepting the burden of that death forever. Mercy lay in choice, not denial. Jon recognized the mask. The slaver's rat, a Myrine's pit champion he had killed during his brief sojourn with Daenerys. The man had begged no quarter, yet Jon's blade found spine. Jon lifted the mask. Rust flecked the inner surface, dried bloodlines etched like tears. Did he forgive the champion? Or himself? He recalled crowds chanting for death, remembered his horror at becoming entertainment. He had killed to survive, yes, but also to placate the queen. Still, the Ratman had been a slaver, breaker of lives. Mercy to Jon meant releasing that horror, lest it fester. He set the mask down, stepped back. It dissolved. Arya's coin glinted, the iron coin of the faceless men. She had used it to claim sanctuary, to begin her training. She turned it over thrice, lips thin. The coin also represented each life she erased wearing other faces. She pressed it to her heart, then closed fist upon it. It remained. She kept her burden. Tormund unwrapped the leather knot, dried sinews braided in a loop. Tether that once bound a weeping ranger to a tree as sacrifice, if one believed wildling boasts. Tormund sighed, unfurled the thongs around his wrist, placed them gently upon the pedestal. They dissipated. "The sword respects all mercies," Ilaria declared, though her gaze lingered longer on Arya. Dawn chimed a softer note, as if contemplative. Now morning. Ilaria turned to Jon. At dawn's first breaking, the blade must find not only a hand, but a horizon. She indicated the hall's oculus, a circular aperture at the dome's apex, currently darkening as evening neared. You will ascend the sky bridge, there to face the dawn alone. The sword will either drink the sun and shine anew, or fall dull as ordinary steel broken by unworthiness. "I thought the rite at sunset?" Jon asked. "Sunset is dawn's opposite. In the long night, those of us who guard light must learn to find it in darkness." Ilaria offered a cryptic smile. "Your dawn begins when the sun has left the world." Servants ushered them via spiral stairs, which climbed within the cliff itself, narrow slits allowing glimpses of sea tumbling far below. Arya and Tormund halted at a landing mid-height. Illyria bid them wait there. Jon climbed alone. Dawn's blade glimmered faintly, casting faint rainbows on the chalky walls. When he reached the summit, the passage ended at a slender causeway of white stone jutting into open air. No rails guarded its edges. Below, emptiness reeled. Across a yawning gap, another precipice rose. A twin spire connected by the bridge. That spire's crown was flat, carved into a dais shaped like a seven-pointed star. It seemed impossibly distant in gloom, yet moonlight had not yet kindled. The only glow came from sea foam ghosting cliffs. Jon steadied breath, stepped. The bridge flexed beneath feet, stones settling like bones. Wind knifed his tunic, peppered skin with salt spray despite the height. Halfway across he swayed, weight countered instinctively by the sword's mass. He imagined Arthur Dayne traversing similar heights, calm as a cat. Wondered if the old hero ever feared falling. Likely he did, Courage, Jon had learned, was fear harnessed, not fear absent. Mid-span he paused. Silhouettes moved at the far dais. Figures bulky with armor. 4, maybe 5. Moonlight, just rising, revealed sigils quartered on cloaks. A black metal star with a streak of red. The sigil of Gerald. Dark Star Dane. Cadet line. Steel glinted. A longsword with mirror-polished blade that reflected tiny blue sparks. Valerian. A voice reached Jon, carried by wind. Return my birthright, snow, and I grant you a swifter death than most. Elegant, aloof, amused. Darkstar himself. Jon resumed forward until 20 paces remained between. He saw now. Darkstar in midnight plate traced with silver constellations. 3 men in boiled leather bearing crossbows. 1 woman with a spear. No, a sand snake. Perhaps Taine or Obara, swayed by coin or vengeance. Darkstar's sword, Lady Forlorn, heirloom of House Corbray. How he acquired it, Jon could not guess. This is no right, Jon said into wind. It's murder. Darkstar laughed richly. Murder is a right old as daybreak. This castle once belonged to my ancestors, no less than to Alaria's brood. The sword of the morning flows in my veins. He lifted his blade. Let steel decide inheritance. Jon drew dawn. Moonlight ignited the sword until it blazed so bright, the men guarding Darkstar flinched. Crossbows hissed, 3 quarrels streaking. Jon swung. Dawn moved like gust-whipped silk, swatting bolts aside to splash into abyss. The spearman lunged. Jon sidestepped, butt of Dawn smashing her helm. She crumpled, spear dropping to bounce off stone and vanish. Darkstar advanced, lips parted in rapture. Their blades kissed with the clear chime of bells. Lady Forlorn's Valyrian edge sparked reedy white against Dawn's pallid sheen. Shock tremored through their arms. Darkstar pivoted low, seeking knee. Jon hopped, riposted overhead cut. Darkstar parried high. They circled like twin comets. Jon sensed calculation in the man's every feint. A dancer measuring rhythm to strike fatal note. But Jon had fought wights that felt no pain, knights who cheated, wild women whose cunning wove with their speed. He had died and lived. He waited Darkstar's greed. It came. A lunge aimed at Jon's shoulder, disguised as thrust to ribs. Jon baited. He opened his stance a hair wide. Darkstar committed, blade streaking, eyes shining triumph. Jon pivoted outside the line, Dawn shooting up in vertical arc dempture. Crossguard caught Lady Forlorn, wrenched it high. Jon stepped inside, elbow jammed throat. Darkstar staggered, gargling. Jon reversed grip, pommel hammered temple. The knight crumpled. Crossbowmen reloaded in panic. 1 arrow whistled past, the other snapped off Dawn's flat. Jon advanced. Leave, he ordered. Take your lord before I throw him from the bridge. The men exchanged looks, dropped bows, dragged Darkstar's limp form by ankles. They vanished into gloom of stairs carved opposite dais. Jon exhaled. The fight tasted short but laden with risk. 1 slip might have spilled him over edge. He knelt, planting Dawn tip into Stone Star dais. The blade drove as though piercing butter, seating until hilt hissed marble. A throb pulsed up sword into earth. From distant horizon, first sliver of sun breached sea. Orange sinews crawled skyward. Dawn drank light, literally. Radiant tendrils drew toward steel, coiling around edge. Sword gleamed brighter, until Jon felt heat upon cheekbones. The stone dais rings lit sequentially, each point of the 7-ray spire glowing to life. Wind dropped away, replaced by stillness dense as deep water. Then the sword sang, a low resonance, atonal but pure. Marbled sunrise shot down grooves cut in dais, raced along bridge, illuminating stones. Below, ocean briefly reflected path of fire connecting spires like aurora. Arya and Tormund at landing gasped audible. In the dawn chamber, presumably, prisms burst into kaleidoscope. Jon tried to withdraw the blade, but resistance held it. He realized the sword was drinking light until full. He waited, palms on hilt. Vision blurred golden. The noise sharpened into words within his skull. Not spoken, but felt. Bearer of Frostwolf blood and dragonbone breath. Stand when night devours morning. One life for all, or all lives forfeit. The line repeated thrice. Then silence slipped. Dawn released, sliding free with no friction. Its surface now glowed faint gold beneath pearl, as though alloyed with sun. Jon Zenst changed weight, lighter, yet more potent. He sheathed. On the far tower stairs, Arya emerged first, sprinting across causeway, balance catcher, despite yawning abyss. "Did you kill him?" she asked. "Spared him," Jon replied. "His men might not thank me." She inspected sword's new hue, pupils dilated. Brighter. Torment lumbered across, breathing hard. Light show bigger than a dragon's arsehole. He peered over edge. Not a soul floating, that's good. He slapped Jones back, nearly toppling him. "Ye sword of the morning, eh? I knew I'd bathe with a legend." Back in the dawn chamber, Lady Ilaria waited barefoot on Mosaica's sunburst, eyes shining with unshed tears. At her feet lay Darkstar, arms bound, eyes fluttering awake, flanked by guards, proof that her spies worked swifter than wind. Jon approached. Ilaria dipped in to kneel at his arrival, startling him. She rose quickly. "The blade changed," she breathed. "Morning within morning." She glanced at Geraldine. "He came to steal destiny. You returned mercy as well as mastery." "Destin," Darkstar hissed, but two guards held him. Ilaria gestured. They hauled him away. "He will stand trial beneath both moons," she said. Jon frowned. "Trial should be by his peers in Dorne." "And it shall be," she agreed. "For I am Dorne's voice in Starfall. Justice will serve with mercy." She offered him a chain of electrum hung with a small dawnstone cut in 7 rays. "Wear this, so the realm believes what the sword already knows." Jon accepted, slipped it overhead. Festivities erupted that evening. Tormund plundered the cellars. Davos traded smuggler yarns for spiced prawns. Gendry forged commemorative brooches from spare silver. Devon danced clumsily with Alaria's younger cousin, while Arya vanished to the rooftops. Yet Jon lingered on a sea balcony alone, watching stars. The sword lay across knees, warm. He pondered the riddle. One life for all, or all lives forfeit. Perhaps prophecy again, another price he would pay. Footfalls. Iliasan joined him, offering a cup. "Starfall's tears, honey, lime, raspberry wine," she explained. "For new dawns." She clinked his rim. "You listened," and the sword answered. "My lady believed, and she was right." A faint admonition flashed in her eyes. "Beware those who love the idea of you more than the man. Legends grow teeth." Jon sipped. Flavor bright. "Will you return to Lady Ilaria's service?" "I go where dawn goes." She shrugged. "South, north, across sea." "I was orphan of the green blood, fostered in tower libraries. They called me Dane's shadow, but shadows follow light." She stepped back into dark archway, smiling. Later, Jon found Arya atop Starfall's highest turret, bare feet dangling over void. She faced east, where pre-dawn paled horizon though night still shrouded land. Dawn strapped across Jon's back. Arya patted stone beside. He sat. "Tomorrow rides," she said. "Tomorrow rides," he confirmed. "Lady Ilaria suggests we sail to Sunspear, then across narrow sea to Bravos. She believes the Citadel's archmaesters convene there under Ironbank's protection to discuss the long night." He swallowed. "Another road." Arya hugged knees. "Sansa will worry. Bran already knows." She tilted chin. "But you go." "I go." She nudged him with shoulder. "Then I go too. Someone must ensure you don't brood yourself off a ship." "Dan?" He almost laughed. He watched colors bleed into sky. Darkest indigo dilute to deep blue, then bluish silver, then faint rose. A breeze salted their cheeks. Below, dawnstone roofs caught first light, igniting pastel flames. Jon gently unclipped the star pendant. held it between thumb and forefinger. The gem glowed, refracting sunrise into 1,000 pinfire points. He thought of Winterfell's red leaves, of the wall's ghost towers, of children huddling in reed villages, thought of Daenerys somewhere across seas, dragons circling smoke-scarred cities, her dream of breaking the wheel. One life for all. He closed fist over star. Dawn hummed a note, deep enough to feel in his ribs. The morning had chosen him, but the night would come, as it always did, and he would meet it with the only weapon that truly mattered: the will to stand, whatever the cost. The sun breached the sea, in full, golden disk flaring. Arya shielded eyes. Jon let glare burn. He would need its fire etched into memory for the darkness ahead. And for a moment, upon that turret, kissed by the first light of day, he felt neither bastard nor king nor savior, but simply a man awake between heartbeats of history, balanced on a blade's edge, resolved to carry dawn into a world still half asleep and dreaming of night. EKK. Salt-stung wind howled along Starfall's moonstone quays as the Dawn's spear pitched at anchor, her violet sails snapping like dragon wings. Jon Snow stood on the narrow plank bridging ship and shore, white turbulence foaming beneath. The vessel, a sleek Dornish dromond built for speed and shallow waters, seemed restless, ribs creaking against iron-bound pilings, while dock workers hurried casks below decks, and gulls harangued every dropped crumb as if they too sensed the voyage's urgency. Dawn hung at Jon's hip in a fresh-worked scabbard of braided whalebone, its refashioned leather dyed such a pale lilac it might have been sunlight itself tamed and spun into hide. Each time the sword shifted, soft phosphor rippled down the blade, like moon shadows rippling over a pond's surface. Ghost padded just ahead, pausing to sniff damp ropes coiled beside the gangway. A sailor reached to shoe him, thought better, and offered a strip of smoked eel instead. The direwolf accepted with quiet dignity, permitting a single scratch behind his ear, a gesture that spread through the wharf like rumor. The sword of the morning's wolf had blessed the voyage. Jon hid a smile, but anxiety gnawed. The journey ahead sprawled long, down the Torrentine's mouth, along the Jade Straits past the stepstones where corsairs hunted in lean packs, around the broken arm of Cape Wrath, then north across the summer sea to Brevos. Storm season waned, yet clouds loomed heavy as auguries. Behind him, Arya sparred on the quay with Gendry, the clang of needle against a smith-forged training blade, ringing like distant bells. Her footwork had grown sharper with every passing league. She danced in half-lunar arcs, each thrust answered by a parry that left Gendry grunting in surprise. Davos called encouragement, while Tormund used an overturned crate as lectern to recite bawdy epics of wildling kings, until a harbor scribe begged him to cease for the sake of unmarried ears. The commotion eased Jon's nerves. They moved as a pack now, stitched by ordeal and wandering. Lady Alleria arrived near mid-morn, sentinel shadows trailing. She wore a sea cloak of pearly gossamer whose folds caught the dawn and scattered it into rainbow motes. In her arms she carried a casket long and slim, carved from living driftwood, its lid secured by locks gold as sunrise. "Starfall's heart leaves with you," she said. "Scriptures, ledgers, and fragments none alive have read. Tears of crystal from the Dane forebear who first carved dawn. Should Bravos doubt your counsel, show them what fell from sky." She placed the casket at Jon's feet. "Guard it as you would a sleeping babe." He knelt, pressing palm to its cool grain. "You honor me, my lady. Honor is the stone, deeds are the mortar." Her violet eyes fixed on Dawn. "The blade remembers. See, it does not mourn." She stepped back, and before Jon could frame reply, she vanished among banners whipping above ramparts. By high sun, the tide turned. Oars set, dock lines cast off. Drums thrummed slow as heartbeats. The Dawn's spear slid from her berth, prow cutting jade water. A fisher's horn bleated farewell. Gulls answered with ringing cries. Jon stood at the taffrail until Starfall dwindled to alabaster smudge atop an anvil of red cliffs. Then even that surrendered to horizon haze. When only sea remained, he exhaled the breath he'd held since crossing the Bridge of Light. First week passed in relative ease. The novitiate quartermaster, A plump man named Maris Rowan distributed salty goat stew laced with pomegranate seeds, a Dornish trick to keep scurvy at bay. Elia Sand oversaw archery practice on afterdeck, her red-fletched shafts nesting in painted targets shaped like night wraiths. She spoke rarely to Jon, yet every dusk she set aside a cup of blood-orange wine for him at the stern rail. He suspected a ritual, though she offered no explanation. Davos assumed role of sailing master, his one remaining finger on right hand tapping rhythmic corrections against a brass compass. He barked orders elegant as any Myrish mariner's chant. Devon served as mate, eager yet apt, memorizing wind shifts and line knots until decks regarded him with grudging respect. Tormund, bored of rope work, regaled the rowers with sagas that bent truth beyond recognition. Of how he once wrestled a frostbear, while astride a mammoth's shoulders. How Night's King's bride offered him a crown of icicles. How he taught giants to sing. Laughs rippled across benches, easing blistered palms. Arya spent hours perched on bowsprit, letting spray freckle her cheeks while she carved tiny wolf heads into the rail with cat's paw's Valyrian edge. Sometimes Jon joined her, and they spoke little. They had lived long enough with steel and storm to cherish silence. By the 9th day, the deep green of the Jade Straits darkened to bruised slate. A barbed wind gnawed rigging, and wave crests foamed like old blood. Sailmaster Davos reduced canvas, but dusk still found them heaving through forward seas. Why the stranger's ire? Gendry labeled each mountainous pitch as he clung to mast. On the second dog watch, lookouts cried sails astern. Jon climbed ratlines to Crows Nest. Two black silhouettes knifed through gloom, a pair of low-slung galleys, striped hulls painted midnight blue. Their oarbanks flashed silver in fitful moonlight. Corsairs, Davos conferred, face drawn. They'll outrow us with this swell. We run or we fight. Jon weighed odds. The Dawn's spear boasted a scorpion at prow and archers aplenty. But corsairs bred for murder at sea practiced boarders with spiked grapples, poisons, nets. He rested hand on Dawn. The blade warmed, pulsing slower than his heart yet deeper, like a drum within bone reminding him whose legacy he bore. Hold course, he decided. If we cede, they'll chase us into narrower waters. Better choose our field. Davos nodded grimly. Arya saluted the command with feral grin. Tormund cracked knuckles. Elia gathered archers on quarterdeck, instructing them to loose only when enemy grapples flew. Drums below decks quickened. Ghost lowered head, lips peeling in silent snarl. The corsairs closed by midnight. Painted lanterns bobbed on their rails, casting lurid purple glitters over black water. War horns brayed. A voice from lead ship boomed in slurred, low Valyrian. Strike colors, yield hold, and live. Arya yelled back something obscene and Braavosi cant. The voice snorted laughter. Grapnel chains whirled overhead, flung across swell, clanged against the spear's gunwale. Sailors severed some with hatchets, but one latched, and corsairs surged, hooking boards to rail. The battle unfolded in frantic bursts. Crossbow quarrels flicked like angry beetles across rigging. Jon split two mid-flight with Dawn, each deflect sending sparks over pitching deck. A corsair vaulted rail swinging twin axes. Arya ducked, hamstrung him, pivoted into throat stab. More poured, armored in patchwork scale. Tormund bulldozed through three, biting an ear from one shrieking man before hurling him to waves. Ghost bounded proud astern, jaws clamping wrists, dragging men across splintered planks. Jon faced the enemy captain, a towering Ibanese with tusked helm and a barbed glaive. The first clash jarred bone to marrow. The glaive's arc whistled overhead, shaving spar right of Jon's ear. He stepped inside reach, slashed downward. Dawn bit through scale, slicing belt and belly both. Blood steamed against rain. On aft castle, Gendry swung a marline spike like maul, cracking skulls. Devan caught a blade to shoulder, toppled, but Davos yanked him beneath stare, binding wound with his own scarf, while blocking jabs with short dirk. Clamor reached crescendo when a thundering roar rolled beyond starboard. The second corsair galley, under oar, rammed. Cries rose as spear's hull shuddered. water geyser. Planks splintered, tar seams burst as keel shrieked agony. Jon glimpsed terrified eyes of rowers doubling strokes to back oars, but the galley stuck fast. "Scorpion!" Davos bellowed. Gendry and a pair of sailors spun the prow's heavy crossbow. Arya fed long harpoon lines. Wind veered, clearing smoke. Jon pointed. They loosed. The bolt screamed, trailing cable. It punched through Corsair sailcloth, tearing yardarm clean. The galley heeled, oars tangling. Seconds later, the central mast snapped, crushing two boarders already springing for Spear's rail. Mid-chaos, Jon sensed rather than saw a shadow drop from Corsair yard onto the quarterdeck behind him. Lean figure cloaked head to toe in black sailcloth, daggers like shards of starlight. Reflex snapped Jon around one heartbeat before steel found spine. The assassin's blow glanced across Dawn's flat, jarring arm numb. He caught shape of mask, lacquered purple wood carved as snarling face of lion crossed with sun. House Martell's ancient sigil twisted. Not Corsair, a sell sail under contract. The assassin moved silent as silk, weaving strikes Jon could scarcely trace, blades slithering for gaps at elbow, groin, neck. Guide. Dawn blurred, parrying thrice. But fourth thrust nicked his hip, heat blooming. Ghost lunged. Assassin somersaulted over wolf, landed cat-like. Ship pitched, the moon emerged, light silvering everything. It revealed the attacker's eyes, violet as Alarius. "Relinquish Dawn," she hissed. "Or drown." Jon recognized her accent. Starfall Hills. A Dane outcast. He slid stance. Dusk wolves breathing. They circled. The showdown felt separate from broader battle. Noise faded. Wind beat sails. Hull groaned. She struck again. Low feint. High stab. Jon pivoted to inside line. Flung elbow into her jaw. She faltered. He twisted wrist, locking dagger hand, pulled, snapping bone. She hissed, but flipped free, backpedaled, producing tiny glass sphere. He recognized Myrish fire. He dove as she hurled it, glass shattering near Scorpion winch. Green flames spouted, coating deck in liquid fire. Rowers screamed as rivulets dribbled toward hatch. Jon leapt through flames, cloak igniting. He swung Dawn in downward diagonal. She raised broken arm instinctively. The blade severed that arm just above wrist. She tumbled, shrieking. Jon stamped cloak ablaze, yanked rigging bucket overhead onto spreading fire, dampening edges. Corsair morale broke as fires spread to their own spar. Grapples cast away. They cut lines, backing waterlogged galley. Boarders flung themselves into swells. Jon watched silhouettes vanish. Rain swept in sudden, dousing what green fire remained. Dawn's spear bled but floated. Hull planks groaned yet held. Quartermaster Rowan declared 3 dead, 8 wounded. They buried losses at sea wrapped in sailcloth. Gulls wheeled. The assassin, secured with irons, lay fevered in sick berth. Ellie tended stump with Poppy. She'd said little, but Jon glimpsed grief behind dark lashes, seeing kin lost to vengeance perhaps. He asked the girl's name. Elia answered, "Melissa Dane, Gerald's cousin." Jon nodded, feeling weight of house wounds. War seldom ended, it just changed uniform. Damage forced anchorage at Planky Town days later. No more than a scattering of pilings, fish huts, and taverns perching above delta mouth of the Greenblood. It served smuggler and trader alike. Yet scorpions of House Martell ringed sandbars, watchtowers built from white cedar. When Dawn's spear limped upriver, a gilded barge bearing Sunspear banner rowed out, escorting them to a sheltered cove ringed by pomegranate orchards. There, Lady Arianne Martell awaited, dressed in silk cut shorter than propriety but equal to desert heat. Copper rings twined through ebony braids. Her greeting kissed both Jon's cheeks, sand-scented breath whispering, "If the sunrise sword chooses wolves now, Dorne must learn new constellations." She hosted them at a riverside manse of open courtyards and mosaic ponds. Musicians plucked triple-necked lutes while figs dripped honey over silver platters. Yet strategic talk soon overshadowed feast. Dorne prepared for war. Queen Daenerys, rumor said, sailed for Old Town with Unsullied and 2 dragons. Aegon Targaryen advanced from King's Landing north toward Harrenhal. Ironborn fleets raided the Arbor. The realm fractured as ice melt cracks a lake bed. Jon laid Dawn across cedar table, explaining the riddle that beat within blade. Ariane's eyes narrowed. "One life for all," she murmured. "Azor Ahai," Davos suggested. "Legend speaks of forging Lightbringer through sacrifice. Perhaps Dawn demands similar price." "Sacrifice of life," Arya scoffed. "Prophecy always wants blood. Why not sacrifice pride instead?" Jon touched hilt, remembering Sansa's silent vow to hold north, Bran's unreadable gaze. He would trade his pulse gladly if realm gained Dawn. But prophecy's teeth bit more than willing hearts. Ariane offered fresh hull patchers, spices, and 50 Dorne spearmen to reinforce crew. Jon declined extra men. Stealth, not numbers, must shield them across narrow sea. She did insist on one voyager, Sir Daeron Sand, called Daeron Whirlwind for his mastery of spear and horse. Bastard of Ariane's uncle, he swore to protect Dawn with his life. Jon accepted, though he sensed quiet jealousy in Elia. Repairs done within fortnight. Melissa Dane recovered enough to walk. Jon visited her cell at dusk. She sat cross-legged, stump-wrapped, expression neutral. "Why the blade?" he asked. "Once, only worthy Danes bore it." She winced, adjusting bandage. "When Elria sent it north, it spat on that birthright." "It chose," Jon countered. "No sword chooses. People say so to hide seizure of power." She touched stone wall. "Kill me or free me, wolf, but spare me sermons." Jon left her shackled. When tides favored, they sailed from Greenblood Delta, slithering across placid turquoise sheet. The stepstones shimmered ahead like broken teeth. Twice they shadowed pirate galleys but slipped shoals under cover of starless nights. Gendry hammered hull inside hold, patches holding. Tormund fished with line thicker than leg, pulling silver-green kingsnappers that fed crew for days. In quiet hours, Jon studied the casket's scrolls. One parchment bore star glyph identical to archway symbol, translation in High Valyrian read. "The sword remembers its forging flame in every bearer's blood." Another scroll chronicled births of Dawn's champions, 32 names across 10,000 years, each corresponding to cataclysms. The Hammer of the Hills quelling the First Night Army, Lady Lysara Dane slaying sea demon Leviathan, Sir Orlean, who brokered year of Red Spring truce by offering his life. Jon traced each line, heart heavy. Stormless but tense, they reached Pentos Bay's outer verge as last quarter moon rose. Vast silhouettes prowled horizon, trimasted war hulks under Brevosi purple and silver. But these patrols granted passage when Davos flashed token, a letter of passage from Iron Bank delivered by Raven at Planky Town. Ariane's doing, no doubt. Dorne's influence circled subtle as sand vipers. Entering Bravos felt like sailing into hollowed star. Lanterns in 1,000 colors danced on water. Titan's braziers flamed overhead. Canals webbed aisles dense with minarets, domes, housepots. The Titan's horn boomed, reverberating across hull timbers. They moored at Purple Harbor where iron portcullis rose between statues of winged women bearing swords aloft. A mirror perhaps of dawn. Ghost whined uneasy. Smells of tar, fish, incense, stranger folk. Arya seemed electrified. The city of her training thrummed under her skin like returning heartbeat. A robed envoy met them, mask carved from weirwood, voice echoing. "The Council of 7 Lanterns awaits the wolf with sunrise sword. Follow Sheen." He guided them through lamplit alleys onto broad causeway, lined with glass globes, housing azure blue flame. High above soared the Palace of Truths, marble and obsidian music frozen. They climbed steps that rang hollow. Inside, a round chamber. A pit of water encircling dais where 7 high-backed chairs sat draped in silk of differing hues. Upon chairs perched archmaesters of Citadel, each collar tinkling chain link forged from disparate metals. Between them and pit stood bankers, sea lords, magisters of Titan's cheer. The Archmaester in steel mask spoke. "You bear dawn, show proof." Jon drew. Light cascaded, sheets of shimmering mother-of-pearl stroking chamber walls. Some watchers gasped. Others leaned, eyes calculating value. The council's purpose emerged. They studied signs of second long night, debating responses. Archmaester Malador insisted dragons alone sufficed. Archmaester Severin argued dragonglass caches needed forging. Bankers worried about debt. Sea lords about blockade. Jon found talk swirling like ravens, but bringing little action. When he relayed the blade's warning, a hush thickened. One life for all. The phrase sparked fear. Who must die? Malador demanded. No prophecy names, Jon answered. And destiny is choice. He urged alliance. Merge citadel wisdom. Bravosi coin, Dornish steel, northern fortitude. Build firewalled enclaves, archery towers of dragonglass, fleets to ferry refugees. Arguments raged dawn to dusk. Davos navigated politics with smugglers' tact. Arya eavesdropped among shadows, gleaning secrets. Iron Bank quietly financed Euron Greyjoy's raiders to pressure Tyrell remnant. Faceless men lobbied unseen to cull kings who hindered profit. On third night, a corpse surfaced beneath Moonpool. One Archmaester gutted, chain stolen to Tiai. Alarm rippled. Faceless men? Or some faction striving to sabotage council? Arya's expression turned stony. She slipped away into black canals, merging with darkness. Jon felt tension tighten. Dawn glowed faint heat, as it had before attack at sea. He posted Ghost outside quarters. Mitski's next day, council resumed amid paranoia. Heated exchanges derailed to accusations. Into that maelstrom strode a new presence. Woman tall as spear, hair like white silk, winter in her piercing silver eyes. At her side, a night-clad scale of shimmering ice. Murmurs. Emissaries from lands of always winter? No. They introduced themselves as survivors of Hardhome, Val the Wildling Princess, and an ex-then warchief. They brought tale of new night king rising, not of vanished children's stories but real, a being woven from shadows of those the first night king slaughtered long ago. He led an army that gained strength south of Shivering Sea, using broken ice floes as bridges. Already he'd conquered Skagos, raising whites thrice thicker than first long night. Jon's marrow chilled. Skagos lay but starlight's throw east of north. He thought of Winterfell under Sansa's rule. Ghost whined and nosed his palm. Dawn's edge sharpened, humming. Council's bickering died under weight of this witness. Yet decisions remained elusive. Bankers balked at deploying gold fleets. Magisters argued for closed harbors. Jon slammed Dawn flat against marble dais. Ringing shell shock stilled the hall. Talk breeds spiders, he said quietly. Action births dawn. He declared he would sail north at once, gather dragonglass from Dragonstone mines, rumored reopened by Queen Daenerys, then travel land routes through Vale passes to Winterfell to mount defense. He sought only passage fees, and a signed decree from council pledging supplies, ships, smiths, maesters. Sea Lord Bareth Vallis stood. Braavos does not accept kings, only borrowers. I ask no crown. Jon met his gaze. Only dawn for men. The Iron Bank senior agent, a severe Myrish woman named Lyra Son, weighed him with coin-sheen eyes. She produced a parchment. A loan against life itself. Repayment due should realm survive 10 winters. She set quill. Jon signed Aegon Stark Targaryen, both names bridging ancient rift. Whisper passed around hall. Some smiled, others shuddered. That night, Arya returned blood-spattered but alive. Faceless men indeed sought to tilt council. She left one floating under purple lanterns. She pressed a coin into Jon's hand, the same coin of mercy she had kept. I let go, she whispered. For the north. For dawn. His sister's eyes looked older. He clasped her shoulder, silent. They refitted Dawn's spear for colder seas, iron-banded prow, heavier cloaks, barrels of pickled goat. Darren Sand drilled archers using Bravosi hornbows. Elia studied charts, mapping hidden coves of Vale. Tormund carved new pseudonyms for himself: Bear Crush, Dawn Drinker, until Davos threatened to log aliases in Manifest. Melissa Dane, still prisoner, requested speak. Jon found her on deck alone. She lifted mutilated arm. Hate it with one hand achieves half revenge. Take me north. Let Dawn's enemies face blade I once sought. Jon glimpsed truth. She craved redemption, maybe death. He freed her chains, offering crew tunic and spear. Warning glint in Elias' eyes said, watch carefully, but she offered no reproach. Departure dawn broke red. Sailors' superstition of storm. Yet horizon lay calm. As nets hauled anchor, Arya produced scrap of parchment. A message smuggled from a Braavosi urchin. Spooled in cipher, but she read Valyrian glyphs. Dragons stir east. Queen sails north too. Beware three-eyed crow's price. Jon folded note, focusing on last words. Bran? Or prophetic metaphor? Either way, threads converged. Dragons, dawn, winter's king. He touched Dawn's hilt. Pulse resonated across deck. Crew stilling as faint sunrise pink shimmered. Under Titan's stone gaze, the ship glided toward narrow sea's grave vastness. Sails bellied. Seawater hissed along beam. Braavosi horns moaned farewell, or warning. Ghost stood at bow, ears forward, reflecting oncoming gale. Jon joined him, breath pluming frost, though sun yet glowed. The sword at his side hummed, reciting silent vow. One life for all. He gazed northward, beyond haze, beyond league on league of bitter waves, to shores where winter wolves howled, and red leaves whispered names of the long dead. There, the night would try its final door, and he, with siblings of blood and choice, with a sword forged of falling stars and tempered in living hearts, intended to stand in the threshold until dawn either broke or broke them. Kaki. The narrow sea reared like a restless animal beneath a graying sky, waves combing the dawn's spear until her planks groaned like old bones. Jon braced at the quarterdeck rail, oilcloth cloak plastered to him by sleet-spiked wind, dawn glowing faint pearl at his hip. Spray flickered off the blade, as if the sword itself repelled seawater. Each gust tasted of iron, and though Ghost prowled the deck unfazed, most sailors kept low, rum-heavy prayers snared in their beards. By the second day at Braavos, clouds sealed the heavens. No stars guided Davos' course, only the deep green churn of water and the sporadic flash of sea-witch lightning. Somewhere portside, Arya stood on the bowsprit with arms flung wide, laughing at the storm like a girl who'd stolen the knight's crown. Gendry lashed fresh canvas to the foresail, hands red raw. Wah. Tormund wrestled a loose spar into place, roaring taunts at the wind. Around them, new recruits from Ariana's retinue bent to ropes without complaint, purple scarves dark with brine. Elias Sand remained opposite Jon near the aftercastle, scanning blank horizons through a salt-flecked far eye. She looked less courier now than falcon, hair bound tight, shoulders squared, bow slung across back, quiver sealed with wax to keep fletchings dry. Low thunder rolled. She steadied herself, shouting over the gale. 2 nights more before we clear Skagos latitude. If tides hold. Jon answered with nod. Skagos, land of horned giants, rumored cannibals, and if Val's report held, the Night King's advancing thralls. He clenched the rail. The vow he made at Braavos felt carved into marrow now. Sail fast, secure dragonglass at Dragonstone, reach Winterfell before the drowned dead arrived. At dark, watch bells told the hour of ghosts. Davos gave the word to reef sails. Wind poured ice through seams. Jon relieved the helm long enough to feel grain of the wheel biting stiff palms. Memories drifted with sleet, training rounds with Robb in Winterfell's yard. Ice crystals on their brows. The first chill night atop the wall when he'd wondered if death could be outrun. He grit his shiver against him in that mountain cave. All those winters past seemed gentler than the cold carried in this storm. Near midnight, the lookout's cry cracked through gale. Light to west, no port fire, brighter. Jon joined him, spyglass to eye. Through pelting rain he glimpsed a nimbus of blue-white luminescence skimming wave troughs. too pale for braziers, too fickle for lanterns. The light surged, dipped, vanished. Davos' voice carried, "St. Elmo's fire?" But Elia shook her head. "No, that moves against wind." Jon felt Dawn vibrate faintly. Ghost, pawing the deck, released a low growl that quickened sailors' pulses. Then the sea ahead bulged. Water sucked downward, as though some vast creature drew breath beneath. The Dawn spear shuddered. Crew clutched rails. A column of ice erupted from the trough, an obelisk of frozen seawater spiraling upward. Taller than mast, rhymed with shimmering glyphs. Wind hissed through its channels, producing a mournful horn note. The obelisk fractured at midpoint. From its heart tumbled bodies, dozens, maybe more, armored silhouettes rimmed in spectral blue. They landed upon water as if on stone, reforming ranks. Jon's flesh crawled. Whites, but unlike any seen at the wall. These wore shards of crystalline armor, eye sockets pulsed indigo. In their gauntlet fists, they bore harpoons tipped with black glass that drank lightning. An eerie quiet descended. Storm winds muted, waves flattening around the column like lake ice. Frost steamed from White's mouths, though none breathed. At their center rose a figure half again man-height, crowned with antlered shards of midnight ice. Its face, if face it was, resembled obsidian carved by moonlight. Eyes twin eclipses. Not the knight King Jon had slain at Winterfell, but something older, rawer, perhaps Val's Shadow King, given flesh. It lifted a staff of cracked frozen bones. Blue sparks spiderwebbed the air. The ship pitched violent enough to fling men against bulwarks. Davos shouted, "Oars out! Swing wide!" But the sea itself betrayed them, current-seized hull, drawing her toward obelisk as if into calving glacier's maw. Jon unsheathed Dawn. Auroral fire cascaded along edge, illuminating deck with rose-gold halo. The sword's hum deepened into quake inside ribs, aligning heartbeat to some ancient chord. He leapt atop gunwale, steady despite lurching timbers. The Whites launched harpoons. Arya vaulted left rigging, slicing two mid-flight. Gendry raised shield hammered from Braavosi steel. Shafts shattered, but force hurled him flat. Torment anchored cable, using body as brace, while Davos swung tiller hopelessly. Jon slashed downward. Dawn intercepted harpoon, blade cleaving through shaft and continuing, releasing gout of blue vapor as tip evaporated. Contact with Dawn dispersed necrotic magic. He met the Shadow King's gaze. Recognition flickered. Hollow hunger, not surprise, as if the creature had awaited the blade's return. The king lifted his staff. Ice spread across water in branching plates, forging bridge toward ship. Whites marched, footsteps tinkling like crystal chimes. Jon gave cry. Archers. Elias' crimson shafts streaked, striking throats. Bones splintered, but Whites marched on, reforming. Arya descended. Steel feet first, plunging needle through eye socket of leading corpse. She twisted free, but black glass dagger whipped from second White, grazed her shoulder, slicing cloak only. Darren Sand thrust spear, detonating White chest. Shards of ice shards rained. The king advanced, each step blossoming ice iris patterns across surface. Freezing waves solid. Lightning crackled within staff tip, coalescing into spear of shadow shot. He hurled. Jon sprang. Dawn met spear midair. Impact, burst sphere of darkness. That swallowed sound. For heartbeat, all motion slowed. Jon felt every droplet suspended around him, frozen in violet gloom. Then Dawn's inner sunrise flared, shattering sphere into motes of dying stars. Ship heaved free from current, hull grinding against brittle ice sheets, splintering path. Davos bellowed for full sail, any gust, now friend. Sailors scrambled, teeth chattering. Jon vaulted onto ice bridge, boots skidding. Ghost followed, white against black frost. Storm halos glimmered overhead. Whites converged, but Dawn sang. Each arc decapitated two, severing necrotic cords. Bodies collapsed into slush. Arya sprinted behind, carving knee joints, toppling remainder. The Shadow King awaited near obelisk base. Staff now reshaped into jagged glaive. He swung, a blur of ink. Dawn intercepted, jolt rushing Jon's bones with cold so profound he tasted winter roses. Glaive screeched across Dawn's surface, leaving no mark. They circled. The king's mouth opened. No tongue. Only swirling darkness. But a sound issued, layered voices, some shrieking, some pleading. 1,000 tongues bound in one lament. The words battered mind more than ear. Jon blocked, riposted. He aimed cut to crown, but King parried with stars' worth of force, knocking Jon sideways. Ghost lunged at ankles. The king kicked, sending Wolf skidding across ice. Arya hurled dragonglass dagger. It lodged in armor seam. Steam hissed, but King backhanded, flinging her a dozen paces. Jon grit teeth. The riddle pulsed. One life for all. Sacrifice? No, not yet. He sought other meaning. Dawn's core warmed, almost guiding. He heard echo of Arthur Dane. The dawn exists not to kill night, but to greet it. What greeting for this abyss? He stepped back, lowering blade. The king paused, blade raised. Jon inhaled, dropping guard, exposing heart. Around them, whites froze, confused marionettes. Arya gasped, but held. Jon spoke. Soft. Human. You are remembered. Words fogged air. The king's black eyes flickered. You were born of fear, but fear ends here. He planted Dawn tip between them, kneeling. Ice crackled under weight. The king loomed, glaive poised to pierce skull. For an eternity, only wind moved. Then blue flame within his eyes dimmed. Glaive lowered, point scraping ice. He reached bony hand toward Dawn's hilt. The sword awakened. From pommel erupted corona of multicolored light, each hue swirling. It wrapped King's hand, climbing arm, encasing in shimmering dawnfire. King convulsed, darkness leaked as smoke. Whites shrieked, brittle forms disintegrating. Ice bridge moaned, fractures spidering. Jon rose, gripping Dawn again. Blade now pulsed with merged hues. Pearl layered with azure, rose, gold. The king's arm cracked, fissures spread across torso. Through gaps, faint glow flickered. Dawnlight breaching void within him. He staggered, gaze never leaving Jon, as though confronting first sunrise ever witnessed. Then he shattered, shards dissolving into snowflakes that spiraled skyward, vanishing into sleet. The obelisk crumbled, sea swallowing shards. Bridge fractured. Arya grabbed Jon's forearm. They sprinted, ghost racing ahead. Ice gave out, but Tormund's throne line lashed Jon's waist, hauling them over rail as plates collapsed. A roar of water engulfed remnants. Silence after battle felt louder than any storm. Sailors gaped across rails littered with evaporating frost, harpoons melting into oily puddles. No white remains, only drifting snowflakes that didn't melt on planks, instead evaporating to mist, as if unmade memory. Davos exhaled. What gods answered you this night? Jon stared at Dawn, inner light subdued, but warmer. Alive. Not gods, he murmured. A greeting. He recalled Maester Aemon's words. Love is the death of duty. Yet, tonight duty greeted hatred with mercy, and war god faltered. Perhaps that was love shaped by steel. Storm broke at dawn. Clouds shredded to reveal sunrise painting sea tangerine. The crew mended sails quietly. Spirits subdued. Arya's cut had clotted. She flexed shoulder. You almost let him kill you. I trusted Dawn. She huffed. Next time, trust me too. Elia approached, drawing fingertips across refitted rail. A battle won, but did we slay the commander or only champion? Don't know, Jon replied. But we've shown them light can unmake night. That evening, Davos plotted new course. Southwest to skirt Skagos, then make Dragonstone within week if wind fair. He fretted hull stress. Gendry promised fresh ribs at first anchorage. Crew slept uneasy, yet no second attack came. The sea ran calm, as if tide itself bent around ship. On third sunrise, out of lead-gray horizon, Basalt turrets of dragonstone pierced sky like flint teeth. Smoke coiled from one tower. Dragons roosting. Wind breathed sulfur. The dawn's spear cut channel. Seagulls replaced by leather-winged shadows overhead. Crew murmured prayers. At moorings, an honor guard awaited. Unsullied helmets polished obsidian. Spears upright. In their vanguard, Daenerys Stormborn herself stood barefoot upon tide-wet rock, hair silver gold in morning sun. Drogon circled cliffs above, scales rippling ember red. Beside her, Tyrion Lannister, gaze sharp as quill. Behind them, a woman cloaked in red silk, the Lady Melisandre. Eyes twin sparks. They'd seen dawnfire in sky, perhaps. They expected this meeting. Jon disembarked with Ghost pacing at heel, dawn visible. Sand scraped under boots. Memories crashed. Cave oaths. Long night's final stand. Daenerys spiral into ash. Yet here, she stood alive, form unused by madness. Wind tousling hair. Expression cautious hope. Perhaps path diverged any time heart met mercy. She spoke first. Dawn glints brighter than rumor. Voice steady. Neither warmth nor malice. Jon bowed. Your grace. Tyrion cleared throat. Some said the sword's light reached towers of Pentos. Poets already composing ballads. He eyed Ghost warily. Shall we parley somewhere less damp? Inside Dragonstone's throne hall. Torches guttered against carved black stone. Melisandre studied Dawn with fervor. Azor Ahai come again, she whispered. Jon stiffened. The Red Woman's prophecies once foretold death by fire. Daenerys lifted hand. Enough riddles, she told Priestess. Her gaze returned to Jon. You seek dragonglass, and your aid to move it north, he answered. The Dead Cross sea eyes south of Skagos. Winterfell must be fortified. Dany inclined head. Silver braid slid across shoulder. Dragonstone's veins run deep. My miners carve 1,000 crates while I sailed. We plan to arm reach levies, but they still muster. Yours is greater need. She spread map, dotted line north to White Harbor marked by fiducials. With Dragon's escort we fly shipments past blockades. Jon exhaled, tension easing. Thank you. But price exists, Tyrion interjected gently. Political, if not monetary. The North declared independence. You will speak for me before your Lady Stark. Nand. Jon met Daenerys' gaze. Old hurt flickered, yet he nodded. I'll speak truth. The realm survives together or falls divided. They clasped forearms, wolf and dragon. Sealing pact. Work began at once. Under sulfur sky, miners hauled obsidian blades, arrowheads, spear tips, armaments to fell whites. Gendry oversaw smelters forging steel sockets, riveting glass. Arya tested daggers on hanging goatskins, pleased by easy puncture. Tormund, meanwhile, coveted Dragon's saddle. He offered to ride regal, bareback like bear to Snowbride. Daenerys laughed. First time Jon recalled such sound since Long Night. She declined kindly. In nights, Jon climbed terrace, overlooking Blackwater Bay, dawn across knees. Melisandre approached, amber orbs gleaming. I saw you kneel to Shadow King, she said. Few men offer heart to dark and survive. I offered dawn. You offered yourself. True power of Lightbringer. Sacrifice. Yet you still breathe. Why? Because mercy is not death, Jon answered. She smiled thinly. Then take care mercy's shadow does not shield enemy. He studied her. Behind zeal smithing, regret smoldered. Yet dawn required many fires. A fortnight later, first convoy readied. 2 galleys loaded dragonglass crates, outriders in Dornish skins. Drogon's sword, Rhaegal II. Ghost perched at prow like sentinel. Daenerys would guide flight to White Harbor, and return for more. Jon insisted traveling with shipment. She agreed. Arya boarded as scout, Davos to navigate harbor mouth, Tormund for fists, Ilya for bow. Tyrion bade farewell with quip. If dead overwhelm, send raven, ill-commissioned poem blaming Cersei's ghost. Jon chuckled despite dread. Galleys slipped into dawn, sails black against crimson horizon. Dragons wheeled overhead, roars scattering shoals. The sea mirrored them, two streaks of flame across water. Dawn, at Jon's side, echoed glow. Half-day north, small sail appeared east, battered cog bearing banner of flayed man. Ramsay Bolton's sign resurrected by rebels. Plunderers, perhaps. Drogon banked, turned aside threat. One gout of flame sent cog spinning, crew leaping. Convoy pressed on. By night, aurora curtains shimmered, vines of amethyst and jade painting sky. Arya perched masttop, toying coin between fingers. She spoke softly to Jon when he climbed to her. The North will believe when they see this. She gestured to sky. He nodded, scanning bleak water. Second dawn revealed coastline. Jagged rock spines. Forests rimed in ice. White Harbor lighthouse beacon winked. Relief spread. Yet as ships angled toward harbor mouth, a thundering crack rippled behind. South horizon bulged with silhouettes. Floating icebergs? No. Ships hewn of ice. Sails stiff fury. White fleet. Jon rushed deck. Horn blasts boomed from lighthouse. 3. The old watch signal for the dead. Panic sowed among harbor fishermen. Dragons shrieked, banking. Ice fleet advanced silent. No lantern, hulls frost-sheened. At center, a colossal barge carved from glacier bore effigy of weirwood twisted and blackened. Upon prow, Shadow King's successor perhaps, figure wreathed in blizzard cloak. Jon met Daenerys' eyes atop Drogon. Wordless accord sparked. Dragons dived. Flame plumes scorching first ice ship. Hull steamed, exploded. Yet more slid forward. One launched shard ballistae of ice. They pierced Rhaegal's flank. Dragon roared, veered, blood steaming azure. Jon drew dawn. Its glow intensified. Call to war and warning to living. He addressed crew. Raro into harbor. Fortify seawall. Tormund rallied men. Arya signaled lighthouse garrison. Bells clanged. White Harbor's portcullis lifted. Convoy dashed toward safety while dragons dueled fleet. Dawn burned in Jon's grip. Reflection dancing across waves. Ghost howled, an answering chorus of wolves drifting from distant wolfswood. As first galley cleared breakwater, ice prow rammed north wall, disgorging whites. Jon vaulted rail to quay stone, dawn slicing thralls as waves spilled corpses onto docks. Fishermen joined fight with oar and hook. Manderly guards formed shield wall. Flaming dragon glass bolts from ramparts caught whites, crystallizing them into salt pillars. Still they came. Jon sighted Shadow Captain stepping onto pier. Armor of frostspike, antler crown smaller than predecessors but leech-hungry. She drew sword of mirror ice, its edge nothingness. Jon advanced. Battle roiled around them, but time narrowed to 2. She spoke in voice that sounded like dozen children singing dirge. Bright day will drown at dusk. She lunged. Their blades met. Ice shriek versus dawn song. Sparks of blue and rose flew. Her strength rivaled mountain. But Jon felt dawn pour heat into veins, each parry forging him anew. He drove her back, foot by foot, until quayside lamps spilled light on face. Girl of 12 maybe once? Half of skull frozen to crown. Eyes pleading behind war. He faltered. She stabbed. Dawn met, but angle nicked his brow. Blood trickled warm. Her lips parted, whisper of longing for rest. Jon remembered, kneeling on ice. He lowered guard, voice raw. You're free. He inverted Dawn to pommel stance and tapped icy sword, not to shatter, but to nudge aside. She froze, literally. Frost crept slower. Tears glazed her lashes. She released weapon. It clattered, fracturing. Blue glow in her pupils flickered, winked out. She collapsed, form thawing into slush. On deck whites, arrested mid-charge, shivering before crumbling. Dragons turned final ice ship to steam. Harbor quieted under swirling snow. Lakemen gazed awed at Jon, bloodied but unbowed. Dawn's glow softened. Manderly Lord Wyman's heir. Sir Windermere strode forth, knee to stone. The north stands with sword of the morning. Bells rang triumph. Wolves howled again nearer. Nemiria's giant pack. Arya guessed. Jon touched cut at brow. Dawn's warmth cauterized sting. Daenerys landed Drogon on quay, pebbles hissing beneath claws. Her eyes took in destruction, then locked on Jon's wound. She pressed cloth to his brow. Gentle. No words needed. That eve, dragonglass crates unloaded to castle cellars. Artisans forged arrowheads all night, their anvils singing defiance. Arya met Nymeria at Godswood Gate, direwolf towering, eyes fiery gold. The pack flowed through streets, greeted by cheers and fear alike. Council convened within Lord Solar. Jon, Daenerys, Arya, Davos, Wyman, Val, Melisandre. Reports grim, undead massed on shorelines east and west. Skirmishes at Flint Cliffs. Giants of ice glimpsed near Last Hearth. Yet morale soared with sword's victory. Plan formed. Fortify the neck. Cranmen muster aided by dragonglass punts. Rhaegal to patrol western cliffs once wounds salved. Dawn's light would rally bannermen, still wavering. Daenerys accepted title warden of sky. Dragons sworn to guard realm, not throne. In return, northern lords acknowledge unity under council, not king. Forging new compact. Dawn pact, dot. That night, Jon walked ramparts above Moonsilver Harbor. Snowflakes drifted like slow sparks. Dawn rested across back, weight comforting. Ghost leaned against him. He gazed south where horizon still glowed faint amber from melted fleet. The war had only begun, but hope seeded. Arya joined, eyes reflecting aurora again blossoming north. Funny, she mused. Thought our stories ended when winter came. Instead, new chapter writes. Jon nodded. Dawn always writes next page. She smirked. Better be good, else Bar Tormund will add giants kissing dragons. He almost laughed. Instead, he breathed deep, scent of sea, pine, hearth smoke mingling. The north felt alive beneath threat. United by dawnfire. Far off, he spied lantern on fishing skiff drifting close. On its mast hung banner of flayed man, but inverted. Red field. Pale man, intact. Survivors carrying plea. Mercy required hearing even foes. He would meet them at dawn. Stars wheeled. Winter hunter constellations chasing maid of light. Jon closed eyes a moment, listening to rhythm of world. Waves lapping stones, forges clanging, wolves singing, dragons beating air. Inside that tapestry, dawn pulsed, neither demand nor prophecy, but promise. Darkest night meets not blade but greeting. And he, Jon Stark Targaryen Snow, sword's new singer, would keep singing until all the realm knew the refrain. Morning's first blush touched eastern sky. Jon watched pale gold seep upward, staining clouds. He whispered, oath, taught by Cranagman. Light remembers. Dawn shimmered reply. The sun breached horizon. Bells tolled. Winter howled. And dawn held. Ka, come, a. Sleet whispered against the arrow-slit windows of White Harbor's North Tower, a sound more felt than heard, as though winter itself was scribing runes upon stone. Jon Snow watched the first tinge of dawn climb the distant sea rim. Fingers curled loosely about the windowsill's frost-slick lip. The air carried scents of wood smoke and brine, tinged faintly with the oily tang of dragonglass being hammered into arrowheads below. Behind him, Ghost's white shape dozed beside the bank brazier, muzzle twitching with dream scent, while Dawn leaned upright against the bedpost, its pearl-violet edge capturing every guttering spark from the coals. In that hushed moment, Jon might have believed the world paused, but for the muffled reverberations of the city's bells, one slow toll every 100 heartbeats, a cadence the harbor folk had agreed upon. The dawn watch, heralding the hour when night's last shadows crept into cracks and corners to die. Yet night had not died. It gathered just beyond the reach of those bells, coiling unseen along coasts and forelands, whispering through nettlewood groves and across jagged headlands, where the newest Shadow King plotted with winds unborn. Jon felt it, the way a half-healed scar tingles at storm's approach. He drew steady breath, tasting seas, iron, and promise of snow, and turned toward the chamber door where a waiting knock echoed softly. Eliasand entered, cloak glittered by hoarfrost, dark hair escaping its knot. She saluted briefly. "A soldier's crisp dip," Ben said. "The skiff flies a truce banner, my lord." Their spokesman requests audience before first bell. "Neston? Bolton remnants?" John asked. "Perhaps, but their sail shows man unflayed, arms bound in red cord. A sign I've not seen." Her nostrils flared in subtle caution. "They surrendered weapons and birthed under our scorpion's aim. 8 souls in all, 1 woman heavy with child, 2 lads scarcely older than squires." John nodded, drew thick jerkin over linen, slung Dawn across back. Ghost rose, yawn bordering growl. Together they followed Elia down spiral steps, boots echoing on stone polished by countless manderly heels. Courtyard bustle crescendoed, the hiss of cooling dragon glass, rasp of whetstones, bray of mules. Snow fell in soft veils, though sea remained open, churned milky with silt dragged by the storm-felled fleet's wreckage. Davos awaited by gatehouse, cloak buttoned high and fresh puckered scar on cheek, where ice shard had grazed him in harbor battle. He offered clipboard of tallies, dragon glass heads counted by the 1,000, but John waved it off for later. "Let's hear our visitors," he said. They stepped onto quay where morning tide lapped stone with lazy menace. 8 refugees stood within torch ring, guarded by manderly spears. Their banner proved a simple twist of burlap dyed crimson, depicting a white figure kneeling, wrists bound. The mark looked freshly painted, strokes erratic. The woman with child, brown hair matted, face pinched, held the crude standard, knuckles white. The eldest, a wiry man whose nose had healed crooked thrice over, stepped forward. "Name's Sigorn Tallheart," he rasped, voice raw from salt wind. John stiffened. House Tallheart perished at Torrens Square if rumors held, scattered by Ramsay's sack. Sigorn glimpsed recognition, an inclined head. "A Tallheart blood. Though none to claim a hall now." "How came you by Bolton sails?" John asked. Sigurn spat over quay. "We took 'em off our slavers when we cut throats south of Deepwood. Call it answer to the Dreadfort's ghosts. Our mark," he gestured to banner, "means broken chains. The red cord symbolizes atonement. We freed 20 thralls along coast. These 7 followed to White Harbor." The pregnant woman's gaze clung to John's, equal parts hope and dread. Her belly swelled under patched sealskin. Behind her the boy stared wide at Ghost's looming shape. "AT's order," Davos pressed. "Our own." Sigorn squared shoulders though they trembled. "Winter's burying old sigils. We want new ones that bind folk, not flay 'em." He inhaled. "Word is the Wolf Lord carries a sunrise sword. We came to pledge those chains to Dawn's cause, if you'd have us." Silence stretched but for gulls cackling. John studied them, raw-boned, frost-bitten, yet eyes carried that strange bright steadiness had seen in wildlings who fled the Night King. People who had stared annihilation and still chosen life. He turned to guards. "Food, blankets, a warm hearth," he ordered. "Then quarter them with Lady Jane Poole's Relief Guild. Anyone willing may train for harbor watch. No forced oaths. Dawn accepts freely." Relief loosened Sigorn's posture. He bowed once deeply before following escort. Davos rubbed beard sprouting gray. "Mercy, again." John caught faint admonishment. "Mercy wins hearts. And hearts win wars no sword alone can." He paused, hand brushing Dawn's hilt. "Tell me of the neck." Davos drew breath. "Crannog outriders reached 3 nights ago. Reed swamps hold, but the white knife's mouth freezes at odd tides. Unnatural chill. They fear dead may bypass causeways on ice floes if cold deepens. Reed urges our presence soon." "Now and now what's?" John exhaled cloud. "Then our next march nears." Snow thickened by midday, blanketing harbor ramparts in hushed white. Within the godswood glade of Lord Manderley's keep, flame crackled beneath iron kettle hung from forked birch. Bran Stark, ever thinner, yet gaze vast as winter sky, sat in wheeled chair carved by white harbor carpenters. Ivy leaves dusted his wool blankets. Across the ring of snow-capped heart trees, Melisandre tended a brazier shaped like open hand, coals glowing sullen red. Ash drifted like slow petals between them. Jon knelt beside Bran, Dawn resting flat across knees. "I must ride south again," he said. "Reed calls." Bran's eyes shuddered and reopened, pupils dilated. "You will reach the neck 3 days before the sea becomes road," he whispered. "There you must choose which tower burns. Choose wrongly, and dawn dims." "What tower?" Jon asked, throat dry. Bran's gaze drifted skyward, as though ravens perched unseen above canopy. "Listen for the horn that sounds no note," he murmured. Then his lids drooped. Exhaustion dragged him back. Mira Reed, who had arrived with her father 2 nights earlier, stepped forward, laying hand on Bran's shoulder. She offered one smile to Jon, guiding chair toward keep. Melisandre remained. Snowflakes hissed upon her brazier. "He rides many currents at once," she said, voice low as coiled serpent. "Some lead to embers, some to ash." Her red eyes shifted to Dawn. "A song for another day, Lord Snow. Have you ears for Alor now?" "I heard only mercy on the ice," Jon replied. "The Shadow King heard it too. Your mercy sang his ending." She traced ember with finger. "But mercy consumes as surely as fire. Guard your heart, else you'll offer more than you possess." Footsteps behind. Daenerys entered clearing wearing direwolf fur mantle over silver-studded leather. She regarded Priestess coldly. "He guards what is his concern," she said. "We have matters of steel and stone." Melisandre bowed slightly, drifting away. Jon rose. Dany studied Dawn's muted shimmer. "Dragonstone's second shipment sets sail dawn tomorrow," she said. "But winds stir above Blackwater. I may need ride Rhaegal rather than Drogon to escort. They still mend his flank, and Drogon tires from constant patrol." "Nah, you push them hard," Jon said gently. "If I don't, we lose skies." Her breath fogged before lips. "Walk with me." They paced beneath bone-white branches, ghost padding. Dany's eyes tracked heart tree faces. "It's peaceful here," she said. "When I first saw Winterfell's Godswood, I felt trespasser. But now, maybe old gods watch all children born tonight." Jon glanced sidelong. "Even dragonborn." She smiled faintly. "No mirth. Even cursed Targaryens." Then firmness returned. "The North respects strength tempered by justice. You show them that. But there will be dissent. Lords uneasy with dragons above hearths. I need to know you won't let fear tip them into betrayal." Jon halted. "Dawn's pact binds us, light for all. I'll not break it by force, nor allow others to." He lifted her gloved hand. Squeezed. "Trust the North. They remember who saved them last time." She closed eyes, perhaps recalling Field of Ashes. When she opened them, snowflakes caught lashes like silver dust. "Then we stand together. Even if horns call us different roads." Yuan. They parted at Cloister Arch. Jon's breath lingered white behind him long after. 2 mornings later, a column assembled upon White Harbor's ice-crusted causeway. 40 Manderley spearmen in sea-green cloaks. 20 Tallheart freedmen bearing axes etched with broken chain sigil. 15 archers under Elia. 10 shield maidens from Bear Island, led by Lady Lyanna Mormont herself. Armor stacked at her small shoulders like rope. Gendry drove wagon loaded with cases of dragonglass heads. Davos directed supply carts. Arya rode Nymeria bareback along periphery. Sentinel eyes perpetual motion. Tormund loomed beside a shaggy northern gelding, bragging how he'd wrestle any half-giant white before breakfast. Darren Sand, polished spear glinting like mirror in dawnlight, took vanguard. Jon mounted Mist, gray gelding first gifted by Sansa, adjusted Dawn's strap, surveyed silent throng along battlements bidding farewell, healers, orphans, fishermen. Above, Drogon and Rhaegal circled, then turned seaward to shadow second convoy. Jon raised fist. The column creaked forward, hoofbeats muffled by fresh snow. Gates parted like jaws of yawning whale, and, escorted by wolves' mournful chorus, they marched into the white wild. Roads south of White Knife blurred into quiet wastes, where drifts lapped gutters and leafless birches bowed under rime. Yet, cold felt less biting than months earlier, as though dawn carried pocket of tempered dawnlight. On first night encampment amid ruins of holdfast torched by Ironborn long ago, John visited Smithy Tent, where Gendry supervised rivet forging. Sparks danced like captive stars across black canvas. "How many arrowheads now?" John asked. 6,000 shaped, Gendry replied, wiping brow. "Another 2,000 before Moat Cailin if iron holds. Obsidian's tricky, chips like glass. But quenching in brine lime mix keeps edge." His grin flashed. "Learned from dragonfire kilns at Dragonstone. Hotter than any forge." John clasped his shoulder. "Good. The dead hate glass more than steel." Outside he found Arya seated alone on overturned crate, needle across knees. Snow caught lamplight in her hair. "Couldn't sleep," she admitted when he sat beside. Nymeria dozed behind, rising gentle steam from nostrils. "I keep dreaming of towers burning. One tall, one squat. Don't know which to save." Joan's blood chilled. Bran's omen. He spoke truth. Bran saw same. "Says we must choose which burns." Arya frowned, turning coin between fingers. "The coin she once surrendered. And you think it's literal tower? Could be keeps at Moat Cailin," John guessed. "Or watchtowers along neck. We'll learn soon." She returned coin to pouch. "If choice comes, I'll be there." She nudged him, half smile. "Kingslayer once said the world is built by people willing to get their hands dirty. Guess that's us." Snow thickened outside lamplight cone. Soft sequins swirling. John sighed. "Try to sleep. Dawn watch comes early." He squeezed her gloved hand and walked back to command tent, where Davos spread maps over crate. They plotted mile counts. Supply caches, Reed promised. Before retiring, John stroked Dawn's scabbard. Blades hummed steady, heartbeat to accompany his own unsettled dreams. On the 9th day, marsh stink replaced pine. The neck's ragged breaths hissed through reed beds, and causeways sank beneath brackish pools that steamed though air remained frigid. Crannog outriders, faces swamp-mudded, eyes sharp, met them beneath stone arch carved by forgotten hands. Howland Reed himself emerged from willow thicket, spear carved from black mangrove, stooped yet unbowed. He greeted John with quiet clasp of arms. "Winter moves strange in these waters," he said, gesturing. "Ice forms then melts by night, unfettered by temperature. Magic rather than season." "Eastenander." John scanned horizon. Distant columns of mist drifted where river channels should lie. "How many days before it freezes solid?" Reed's gaze flicked to the sky. 3 nights, maybe 4. The dead harness cold like Smith grips hammer. They wield it to shape our land. We've laid hilly pits, palisades of weirwood stakes tipped with dragonglass. But if water hardens, they'll march around every trap. They crossed into Greywater's shifting paths. Rafts lashed from alder, ferried by silent paddlers. Reed led to flotilla of huts, lashed atop giant lily plates. There, John convened council atop mossy platform ringed by night lanterns. Reed, John, Lyanna Mormont, Davos, Mira, Arya, Daron, Elia. Ghost lay at John's heel. Nymeria prowled perimeter, nose twitching. Reed unrolled hide map. Marsh channels swirling like entrails. Stones marked towers. 3 watch posts of ancient First Men origin, each ringed by loops of causeways. Reed's finger tapped Tower of Baal, the tallest, perched on limestone shoal. "My seers smell dark frost breaching here. If they cut a swath through cattail glades, they'll flank Moat Cailin's southern breastworks." John studied. 2 other towers, Stone Candle, Briarwatch, guarded lesser passages. He heard Bran's riddle. Choose which tower burns. If they torched Baal preemptively, walkway collapsed into peat bog. Dead couldn't cross. But survivors of the watch post would die. Reed's own kin, perhaps. And Baal also served as beacon to warn Deepwood of raids. Lyanna Mormont's small fist thumped knee. Destroy walkway at Stone Candle instead. Let them bottle there. Easier to defend. Or we seed all three with wildfire from Dragonstone. Ignite when dead cross, Davos suggested. Wildfire near peat explodes, Reed warned. Could ignite marsh for leagues, smoke thick enough to blot sun for moons. Plants die, fish die, people starve. Elia lingered by dawn, light reflecting in her dark eyes. The blade guided you once. Let it show path. Jon unsheathed. Pale shimmer bathed counsel. He closed eyes, listening. Hum deepened as though reed wind whistled inside steel. Images flickered behind lids. A tower racked by green flame. Whites flailing in inferno. Second tower crumbling under ice tide. Third ablaze with dawn fire arrow loosed from unseen bow. Which vision? Then hum shifted, coalescing into faint rhythm he recognized. 3 thumps, pause. 3 thumps, 1 thump. Morse? He opened eyes. Davos stared. Hear something? 3, 3, 1. Jon murmured. Bael's third tower east. Stone Candle first. Briarwatch second. Pattern point Stone Candle. But hum ended, leaving doubt. Choose wrongly. Mira spoke, voice quiet as rush water. Father taught. In the neck, high ground outweighs high walls. Bael sits on shoal that never sinks. If enemy seizes it, they command causeways. Better we hold Bael. Sacrifice lesser tower. Agreement murmured. Jon exhaled. Bran said, listen for horn. Towers each possessed ancient war horn. Stone Candle's horn rumored cracked. Sound no note. Yes. Decision solidified. We evacuate Stone Candle, he said. Rig dragonglass mines along walkway. Set oil caches. When dead mass, lure them further, then light. His chest tightened. I'll give the torch. Lyanna rose, eyes fierce. Mormont's shield maidens hold Bael with Crannog spears. She met Reed's stern happiness. Daron angled spear. Starfall stands at Briarwatch. Plan seated, they dispersed to ready boats. Over next 2 days, Marsh bustled with frantic purpose. Jon and Arya rode raft pontoon convoys, ferrying families from Stone Candle. Graybeard archers, reed thatch weavers, wide-eyed children muffled in moss cloaks. They moved at dusk when fog thickest. Mira guided through eel channels. Her pole tapped rhythms to unseen watchers, coaxing them safe. Jon visited Horn Tower. Stone Candle rose squat, walls troweled with barnacles. He climbed winding stair to top platform, icy wind buffeting. Horn lay upon cradle. Ancient aurochs, horn smithed with bronze bands. Crack-splitting mouthpiece. He lifted it. Once perhaps it roared across marsh. Now it would voice silence. He placed it solemnly atop coil of linen soaked in whale oil. Trapped for dead, should they ascend. Night before withdrawal, Reed's green sears combed barrow ferns, scattering ash sugar mixture. Patterns of swirling frost the next dawn foretold enemy's arrival within 20 hours. Jon watched figures scrabbling across far horizon, blue motes drifting above cattail lines. Drums in his chest quickened. They fell back to Vantage Bluff, where walkway curved like serpent. Gendry set braces of pitch jars. Davos oversaw fuses made of braided wicking soaked in fish oil and powdered dragonglass. When lit, sparks would break glass capsules strapped inside jars, raining shards. Twilight flared saffron, then slithered into bruised dusk. Unnatural cold seeped. Water film across channels iced in creeping webs. Ghost bristled. Hornblast rose from bile. 3 notes. Shadows shifted. Dead approached. Whites emerged, figures crusted with river silt, reed slither, fish bones. Some crawled on all fours like skinks. Others marched in phalanx with harpoons. Among them lumbered bog-dead giants, skin sloughing in sheets, ribs glowing azure. The walkway creaked under mass yet ice buttressed edges. Overhead, snow curled in silent spiral, muffling whirl. Jon positioned archers behind Thorn Palisade. Lyanna's shield maidens perched across causeway at Bael. torches shuddered. Along walkway, dragon glass mines nestled under moss nets. First ranks advanced onto path. Elia loosed arrow, crimson fletching sword sinking into skull of lead white. It staggered but pressed on, blue fire guttering from sockets. More arrows rained. Some whites toppled into marsh, impaled on weirwood stakes. Giants stepped, oil-slick water freeze-hard underfoot. Jon signaled Davos. The Onion Knight touched fuse to lantern flame. Spark raced along braided rope, diving beneath planks. Moments later, a tremor rippled walkway. Mines detonated in sequence, explosions muffled but forceful. Shards of obsidian burst upward, shredding whites. Giants reeled, legs severed, torsos toppling onto spikes. Yet ice below absorbed shock, forming new footing. Dead behind crawled over remains. Jon drew dawn. Blade blazed rose gold, casting halo. He climbed forward rampart, voice carrying, "Hold until fire." His gaze met Arya perched on tree stand above causeway. She knocked arrow, tipped with wildfire granado. Glass ball swirling green. Wave after wave pressed. Oil jars ignited where mines faltered, torching clusters. Smoke steamed black-green. Still, they came. Jon's stomach clenched. Numbers seemed endless. Sudden horn sounded. One long mournful note ripping through gloom. But Stone Candle's horn was cracked. Should be silent. Sound came from Bale's tower. Jon looked. Fire blossomed atop shoal. Bale burned. Confusion clutched him. Why torch Bale now? Across walkway Lyanna's banner waved. But into flame soared shapes of frost wyverns. Snowy illusions conjured by white sorcery. Diving onto tower battlements. Ladder of ice rose, white scrambling. Bale defenders lit pitch cauldrons, hurling into swarm. But flames spilled onto tower roof, igniting tar shingles. Tower roared. Jon understood. Enemy had circumvented walkway, crossing ice flats earlier than seers foretold, striking Bale directly. If Bale fell, causeways south would open. Yet Stone Candle still threatened. Choice again. Aid Bale or ignite final fuse at Stone Candle to cut army's backbone, and sacrifice those still evacuating stragglers. Arya dropped beside him, eyes wide. Bale burns. Jon's mind raced. 3-2-1 hum, pointed Stone Candle earlier. But maybe the tower burning now was Bran's riddle. Horn that sounds no note. Bale horn sounded, not silent. So other tower still the key. Decision snapped. Light Stone Candle, he ordered Davos. Old Smuggler's face went hard. He nodded, sprinted toward hidden fuse line. Jon turned to Arya. "I'd go to Bale." She started protest, but he clasped shoulders. "Guard retreat. If tower falls before fuse, pull back to Moat Kaelin's earthworks." Ghost trotted after as Jon mounted Reed Runner horse. Nymeria bounded ahead, leapfrogging felled pines. Elia signaled archers to shift. Jon galloped across back causeway, dawn slung, heart hammering. Snow-laced lashes, turning world pale. Flames licked Bale's upper gallery. Silhouettes fought along parapets. Mormont shield maidens, Cranach spears, Daeron's Dornish yell of starfall, echoing. He dismounted within muddy yard, hacking two whites before leaping stair spiral 2 steps a time. Smoke stung lungs. Heat oppressive despite cold. On roof platform, Lyanna Mormont braced small round shield against Frost Giant's club by T. Her spears lay broken. Jon dove. Dawn scoring Giant's knee, severing deity. It toppled, smashing parapet. Lyanna spat soot. "Took you long enough." They fought side by side, dawn arcs, emitting fan of dawn fire that melted frost weapons. Daeron hurled spear into wyvern illusion. Form burst into snow, revealing White Crow riding shoulders of Dead Eagle. Nymeria tackled Crow White midair. But tide swelled. Whites poured from rent in outer wall. Then, across marsh, Stone Candle walkway flashed bright as sunrise. Davos lit fuse. A rumble deep as God's growl thundered. Tower shook. Light pulsed along walkway behind enemy lines. Chain of detonations raced north, rupturing ice. Shockwave tossed whites into peat lakes, steaming black. Water gushed, swallowing planks. A wall of flame erupted when final pit ignited. Thousands of blue eyes winked out. Bell defenders cheered, and flame upon rooftop guttered, out of pitch. Snow dampened. Attackers diminished, stranded by broken ice. Remaining whites collapsed or fled into bog. Lyanna slumped against parapet, blood seeping from gash on calf. "Stone candle?" she rasped. "Gone," Jon answered. She exhaled relief. Then tower burned that needed burning. She gestured to Baal's horn, splintered by heat. Sounded note though cracked. Maybe prophecy never simple. They descended as dawn bled gray across marsh. Jon found Davos alive, singed brows. Bodies of fallen, friend and foe, floated in oily pools. But walkway destroyed. Channel impassable for months. They had bought time. That night, reed singers' blessed fires wreathed around Baal's base, warding spirits. Carol of marsh frogs accompanied funeral pyres for the lost. Jon carried Dawn to Knoll, where Stone Candle once stood. Only scorched pilings remained. He knelt, pressing blade tip to earth. Dawn's hum softer, content. He sensed not victory, but brief reprieve. Breath before next onslaught. A raven from Winterfell arrived 2 days later. Sansa's script crisp. "Brother, word of your victory heartens north, but walls groan. Snow's heavy, unseen riders sighted near Dreadfort ruins. Bran sleeps long. Send counsel. And below, Bran's postscript, shaky letters. Tower choice, correct. Beware the wolf in ashes. South wind carries secret. Jon folded note. Ashes, wolf in ashes. Perhaps traitors among northern lords. Bolton remnants? He clenched teeth. No rest. Council under Weirwood awning debated next acts. Davos urged fortify Moat Cailin. Reed suggested pushing vanguard north to intercept Grey host rumored near Dreadfort. Daron insisted lighting beacons along Barrowlands Ridge. Arya volunteered to scout ahead with Nymeria. Shadows best met by ghost, she quipped. Jon agreed, though heart pinched. She clasped his wrist. I'll watch for wolves in ashes. Preparations began anew. Smiths hammered shield plates. Healers mixed pine pitch salves. Dawn's spear remained moored at White Harbor, but Jon dispatched Gendry to oversee more dragonglass from south. At dusk, Jon walked boardwalk above newly frozen channel. Ice already reforming, but slower, hesitant. Ghost trotted. Far crickets chirped despite cold, life refusing hush. He stopped beside charred stump of once mighty pine. Placed hand on rough ash. Wolf in ashes, he whispered vow. Root out any darkness within living before night claimed them. Stars emerged like pinprick hopes. Dawn shimmered faintly, each facet capturing cosmos. He recalled words in Sword's vision. Bearer, stand when night devours morning. One life for all. Sacrifice loomed still, but tonight his life remained. His friends breathed. Dawn's fire lingered across marsh as ember glow. He turned toward fires of Baal, where songs rose, Crannoch harmonies mingled with Bear Island drums. Tomorrow they would dig new trenches, shape new arrowheads, bury new dead. Yet for heartbeat, longer Jon allowed himself quiet. Snowflakes drifted onto Sword, melting instantly. He lifted Dawn, held it parallel to horizon, where first sliver of new moon climbed. A sickle of silver garnered by night, yet promising cycle anew. He breathed, letting lung fill with cold that no longer felt cruel, and murmured to the blade, to marsh, to unseen stars. Light remembers. Far off, an unseen horn cried once, distant, mournful, but notes clear as hope.